This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real events or persons is purely coincidental. This story is purely fictional and does not promote or encourage any form of violence. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real events or persons is purely coincidental. This story is purely fictional and does not promote or encourage any form of violence. There's a stillness in my soul as I look at the broken boy. Even Cassius would not recognize Julian now. A cavity is carved into my heart. My hands tremble as the blood dribbles off them onto the cold stone. Rivers along the golden sigils upon my hands. I am a hell diver. But the sobs come, even as the tears are gone. His blood trickles from my knee down my hairless shin. It's red, not golden. My knees feel the stone and my forehead touches it as I sob till exhaustion fills my chest. When I look up, he is still dead. This wasn't right. I thought the society only played games with its slaves. Wrong. Julian didn't score like I did on the tests. He wasn't as physically capable as I, so he was a sacrificial lamb. 100 students per house and the bottom 50 are only here to be killed by the top 50. This is just a bloody damned test for me. Even the family Bologna, powerful as they are, could not protect their less capable son. And that is the point. I hate myself. I know they made me do this, yet it still feels like a choice. Like when I pulled Io's legs and felt the snap of her small spine. My choice. But what other choice was there with her? With Julian? They do this to make us wear the guilt. There's nowhere to wipe the blood, only stone and 2 naked bodies. This is not who I am, who I want to be. I want to be a father, a husband, a dancer. Let me dig in the earth. Let me sing the songs of my people and leap and spin and run along the walls. I would never sing the forbidden song. I would work. I would bow. Let me wash dirt from my hands instead of blood. I want only to live with my family. We were happy enough. Freedom costs too much, but Io disagreed. Damn her. I wait. But no one comes to see the mess I've made. The door is unlocked. I slip the golden ring over my finger after I close Julian's eyes, and I walk naked into the cold hall. It is empty. A soft light guides me up never-ending stairs. Water drips from the subterranean tunnel's ceiling. I use it to try to clean my body, but all I do is lather the blood into my skin, thinning it. I cannot escape it. What I've done. No matter how far I follow the tunnel, I am alone with my sin. This is why they rule. The peerless scarred know that dark deeds are carried through life. They cannot be outrun. They must be worn if one is to rule. This is their first lesson. Or was it that the weak do not deserve life? I hate them, but I hear them. Win, bear the guilt, reign. They want me pitiless. They want my memory short, but I was raised differently. All my people sing of our memories, and so I will remember this death. It will burden me, as it does not burden my fellow students. I must not let that change. I must not become like them. I'll remember that every sin, every death, every sacrifice is for freedom. Yet now I'm afraid. Can I bear the next lesson? Can I pretend to be as cold as Augustus? I now know why he did not flinch in hanging my wife, and I'm beginning to understand why golds rule. They can do what I cannot. Though I am alone, I know I will soon find others. They want me to soak in the guilt for now. They want me lonely, mournful, so that when I meet the others, the winners, I will be relieved. The murders will bind us, and I'll find the company of the winners a salve to my guilt. I do not love my fellow students, but I will think I do. I will want their comfort, their reassurances that I am not evil, and they will want the same. This is meant to make us a family, one with cruel secrets. I am right. My tunnel leads me to the others. I see Roque, the poet. First aid. He bleeds from the back of his head. Blood is slick on his right elbow. I didn't think him capable of killing. Whose blood? His eyes are red from crying. We find Antonia next. Like us, she is naked. She moves like a golden ship, drifting along quiet and aloof. Her feet leave bloody footprints where she walks. I dread finding Cassius. I hope he is dead because I'm afraid of him. He reminds me of Dancer, handsome, laughing, yet a dragon just beneath the surface. But that's not why I'm afraid. I'm afraid because he has a reason to hate me, to want to kill me. No one in my life has had just cause before. No one has ever hated me. He will, if he finds out. Then I realize it. How could the house ever be knit tightly with such secrets? It can't. Cassius will know someone here killed his brother. Others will have lost friends, and so the house will devour itself. The society did this on purpose. They want chaos. It will be our second test. Tribal strife. The three of us find the other survivors in a cavernous stone dining hall dominated by a long wooden table. Torches light the room. Night's mist slithers through open windows. It is like something from the old tales, the times they call medieval. Toward the far end of the long room is a plinth. A giant stone tower is there. Embedded in its center is a golden Primus hand. Golden and black tapestries flank the stone. A wolf howls upon the tapestries as though calling out a warning. It is the Primus hand that will tear this house apart. Each one of these little princes and princesses will think themselves deserved of the honor of leading the house, yet only one can. Instrumental music plays. I move like a ghost with the other students, drifting around the stone halls of what seems to be a giant castle. There is a room in which we are to clean ourselves. A trough runs icy water along the cold floor. Now blood runs with the water to the right and disappears into the stone. I feel like some sort of specter in a land of fog and rock. Black and gold fatigues are laid out for us in a relatively barren armory. Each student finds the fatigue bundle tagged with his or her name. A golden symbol of a howling wolf marks the high collars and sleeves of our clothing. I take my clothing with me and dress alone in some storage room. There I fall into the corner and sit, silent. This place is so cold and quiet. So far from home. Roque finds me. He's striking in his uniform, lean like a strand of golden summer wheat, with high cheekbones and warm eyes. But his face is pale. He sits on his haunches across from me for several minutes before he reaches over to clasp my hands. I draw back, but he holds on till I look at him. If you are thrown into the deep and do not swim, you will drown, he says, and raises his thin eyebrows. So, keep swimming, right? I force a chuckle. A poet's logic. He shrugs. Doesn't count for much. So I'll give you facts, brother man. This is the system. The lower colors have their children by use of catalysts. Fast births. Sometimes only 5 months of gestation before labor is induced. Except for the obsidians, only we wait 9 months to be born. Our mothers receive no catalysts, no sedatives, no nucleics. Have you asked yourself why? So the product can be pure. And so that nature is given a chance to kill us. The Board of Quality Control is firmly convinced that 60 to 113% of all gold children should die before 1 year of age. Sometimes they make reality fit this number. He splays out his thin hands. Why? Because they believe civilization weakens natural selection. They do nature's work so that we do not become a soft race. The passage, it seems, is a continuation of that policy. Only we were the tools they used. My victim was, bless his soul, a fool. He was from a family of no worth, and he had no wits, no intelligence, no ambition. Gyptayi. He frowns at the words before sighing. He had nothing the board values. There is a reason he was to die. Was there a reason Julian was to die? Roke knows what he does because his mother is on the board. He loathes his mother, and only then do I realize I should like him. Not only that, I take refuge in his words. He disagrees with the rules, but he follows them. It is possible. I can do the same until I have power enough to change them. We should join the others, I say, standing. In the dining hall, our names float above the chairs in golden letters. Our test scores are gone. Our names have also appeared beneath the Primus hand in the black stone. They float, golden, upward toward the golden hand. I am closest, though there's still much distance to cover. Some of the students cry together in small groups by the long wooden table. Others sit against the wall, heads in hands. A limping girl looks for her friend. Antonia glares over at the table where small Severo sits eating. Of course, he's the only one with an appetite. Frankly, I'm surprised he survived. He is tiny and was our 99th and last draft pick. By Roke's proposed rules, he should be dead. Titus, the giant, is alive and bruised. Those knuckles of his look like a dirty butcher's block. He stands arrogantly apart from the rest, grinning like this. His all-splendid fun. Roke speaks quietly with the limping girl, Leah. She falls down crying and throws her ring. She looks like a deer, eyes wide and glistening. He sits with her and holds her hand. There's a peacefulness to him that is unique in the room. Wonder how peaceful he seemed when strangling some other kid to death. I roll my ring on and off my finger. Someone smacks my head lightly from behind. Oi, brother man. Cassius. I nod. Cheers to your victory. I was worried you were all brains. Cassius laughs. His golden curls are not even tousled. He throws an arm around me and surveys the room with a wrinkled nose. He feigns this nonchalance. I can tell he's worried. Ah, is there anything more ugly than self-pity? All this crying. He smirks and points at a girl with a busted nose. And she just became aggressively unpleasant? Not that she was ever much to sniff at, eh? I forget to speak. Shell-shocked, man. They get your windpipe. Just not much for joking about right now, I say. Took some knocks to the head. Shoulder is a bit slag, too. This isn't my usual scene. Shoulder can be fixed straight off. Let's get it back in the socket. He casually grips my dislocated shoulder and jerks it into its socket before I can protest. I gasp in pain. He chuckles. Prime! Prime! He slaps me on the same yummy shoulder. Help me out, won't you? He extends his left hand. His dislocated fingers look like lightning bolts. I pull them straight. He laughs with the pain, not knowing his brother's blood is under my fingernails. I'm trying not to hyperventilate. Spotted Julian yet, man? He finally asks. He speaks in mid-lingo now that Priam is nowhere to be seen. Not a sound. Nah, the kid is probably trying to be gentle with his fight. Father taught us the silent art, cravat. Julian is a prodigy at it. He thinks I'm better. Cassius frowns. Thinks I'm better at everything, which is understandable. Just got to get him going. Speaking of it, who'd you slag? My insides knot. I make up a lie, and it's a good one, vague and boring. He only wants to talk about himself, now anyway. After all, this is what Cassius was bred for. There are roughly 15 kids who have that same quiet gleam in their eye. Not evil, just excited. And those are the ones to watch, because they're the born killers. Looking around, it's easy to see that Rope was right. There weren't many tough fights. This was forced natural selection, bottom of the heap getting slaughtered by the top. Hardly anyone is severely injured except a couple of small, low drafts. Natural selection sometimes has its surprises. Cassius's fight was easy, he says. He did it right, and fair, and quick. Crushed the windpipe with a blade jab 10 seconds into squaring up. Caught his fingers, oddly, though. Prime. I've made a corpse of the best killer's brother. Dread creeps into me to make a home. Cassius grows quieter when Fichtner saunters in and orders us to the table. One by one, the 50 seats fill, and bit by bit, his face darkens, as each chance for Julian to join the table disappears. When the last seat fills, he does not move. It is a cold anger that radiates, not hot as I thought it would be. Antonia sits across from us, opposite me, and watches him. Her mouth works, but she says nothing. You don't comfort his sort. And I didn't think her the kind to try. Julian isn't the only one missing. Arya, all curls and dimples, is lying limp on a cold floor somewhere. And Priam is gone. Perfect Priam the Premier, heir of Mars's moons. I heard he was the first sword in the solar system for his birth year. A duelist without peer. I guess he wasn't too lethal with his fists. I look around the tired faces. Who the hell killed him? The board messed that one up, and I wager his mother will cause hell because he certainly wasn't meant to die. We're wasting the best of us, Cassius murmurs measuredly. Hello, you little shit-eaters. Fichtner yawns and kicks his feet up onto the table. Now it might have dawned on you that the passage may as well be called the culling. Fichtner scratches his groin with his razor's hilt. His manners are worse than mine. And you may think it a waste of good golds, but you're an idiot if you think 50 children make a dent in our numbers. There are more than 1 million golds on Mars, more than 100 million in the solar system. Not all get to be peerless scarred, though, eh? Now if you think this was vile, consider that the Spartans would kill more than 10% of all children born to them. Nature would kill another 30. We are gory humanitarians in comparison. Of the 600 students that are left, most were in the top 1% of applicants. Of the 600 that are dead, most were in the bottom 1% of applicants. There was no waste. He chuckles and looks around the table with a surprising amount of pride. Except for that idiot, Priam. Yeah, there's a lesson for you lot. He was a brilliant boy, beautiful, strong, fast, a genius who studied day and night with a dozen tutors, but he was pampered, and someone, I won't say who because that'd undermine the fun of this whole curriculum, but someone knocked him down onto the stone and then stomped on his trachea till he died. He put his hands behind his head. Now, this is your new family, House Mars, one of 12 houses. No, you are not special because you live on Mars and are in House Mars. Those in House Venus on Venus are not special. They merely fit the house. You get the flow. After the Institute, you're looking for apprenticeships, hopefully with the families Bologna, Augustus, or Arcos, if you want to do me proud. Prior graduates from House Mars may help you find these apprenticeships, may offer you apprenticeships of their own, or maybe you'll be so successful that you don't need anyone's help. But let us make it crystal. Right now you are babies, stupid little babies. Your parents handed you everything. Others wiped your little asses, cooked your food, fought your wars, tucked your little shiny noses in at night. Rostas dig before they get a chance to screw. They build your cities and find your fuel and pick up your shit. Pinks learn the art of getting someone's jollies off before they even need to shave. Obsidians have the worst gory life you could imagine. Nothing but frost and steel and pain. They were bred for their work, trained early for it. All you little princelings and princesses have had to do was look like little versions of mommy and daddy and learn your manners and play piano and equestrian and sport. But now you belong to the Institute, to House Mars, to the Prefecture of Mars, to your color, to the society, blah, blah. Fichtner's smirk is lazy. His veiny hand rests on his paunch. Tonight you finally did something yourselves. You beat a baby just like you. But that's worth about as much as a pink horse fart. Our little society balances on the tip of a needle. The other colors would rip your gory damn hearts out, given the chance. And then there's the silvers, the coppers, the blues. You think they'd be loyal to a bunch of babies? You think the obsidians will follow little turds like you? Those baby stranglers would make you their little cuddle slaves if they saw weakness. So you must show none. So what? The Institute is supposed to make us tough. Huge Titus grunts. No, you colossal oaf. It's supposed to make you smart, cruel, wise, hard. It's supposed to age you 50 years and 10 months and show you what your ancestors did to give you this empire. May I continue? He blows a gum bubble. Now, House Mars. His thin hand scratches his belly. Yeah, we've got a proud house that could maybe even match some of the elder families. We've got politicos, praetors, and judici. The current arch-governors of Mercury and Europa, a tribune, dozens of praetors, 2 justices, an imperator of a fleet. Even Lorne au Arcos of the family Arcos, 3rd most powerful family on Mars, for those not keeping track, maintains his bonds with us. All of those high-ups are looking for new talent. They picked you from the other candidates to fill the roster. Impress these important men and women, and you'll have an apprenticeship after this. Win, and you'll have your pick of apprenticeships within the house, or an elder family. Maybe even Arcos himself will want you. If that happens, you'll be on the fast track to position, fame, and power. I lean forward. But win? I ask. What is there to win? He smiles. At this moment, you are in a remote, terraformed valley in the southernmost part of Valles Marineris. In this valley, there are 12 houses in 12 castles. After orientation tomorrow, you will go to war with your fellow students to dominate the valley by any means at your disposal. Consider it a case study in gaining and ruling an empire. There are murmurs of excitement. It is a game. And here I thought I would have to study something in a classroom. And what if you are Primus of the winning house? Antonia asks. She twirls a finger through her golden curls. Then welcome to glory, darling. Welcome to fame and power. So I must be Primus. We eat a plain dinner. When Fitzner leaves, Cassius stirs, his voice becoming cold and filled with dark humor. Let us all play a game, my friends. We will each say whom we killed. I will start. Nexus Ausalintus. I knew him when we were children, as I know some of you. I broke his trachea with my fingers. No one speaks. Come now. Families should not keep secrets. Still, no one answers. Severo was the first to leave, making his derision for Cassius's game clear. First to eat, first to sleep. I want to follow. Instead, I make small talk with peaceful Roke and massive Titus, after Cassius gives up on his game and retires as well. Titus is impossible to like. He's not funny, but everything is a joke to him. It's like he's sneering at me, at everyone, even though he is smiling. I want to hit him, but he doesn't give me a reason. Everything he says is perfectly innocuous, yet I hate him. It's like he doesn't think me a human. Instead, I'm just a chess piece and he's waiting to move me around. No, shove me around. He somehow forgot to be 17 or 18 like the rest. He is a man. Taller than 2 meters, easy, maybe nearing 2.5 meters. Lithe Roke, on the other hand, reminds me so much of my brother Kieran. If Kieran could kill. His smiles are kind, his words patient and wistful and wise, just as they had been earlier. Leah, the girl who looks like a limping baby deer, follows him everywhere. He's patient with her in a way I couldn't be. Late in the night, I look for the places where the students died. I cannot find them. The stairs no longer exist. The castle has swallowed them. I find rest in a long dormitory filled with thin mattresses. Wolves howl from the shifting mists that cloak the highlands beyond our castle. I find sleep quickly. Chapter 21. Our Dominion. Fitzner wakes us from the long dormitories in the dark of morning. Grumbling, we roll out of double bunk beds and set out from the keep to the castle square, where we stretch, then set off at a run. We lope easily in the 3-7 grav. Clouds drop soft showers. The canyon walls, 50 kilometers west and 40 kilometers east of our little valley, tower 6 kilometers high. Between them is an ecosystem of mountains, forests, rivers, and plains. Our battlefield. Ours is a highland territory. There rise mossy hills and craggy peaks that dip into U-shaped grassy glens. Mist blankets all, even the thick forests that lie like homespun quilts over the foothills. Our castle stands on a hill just north of a river in the middle of a bowl-like glen, half grass, half woods. Greater hills cup the glen in a semicircle to the north and south. I should like it here. Io would have. But without her, I feel as lonely as our castle looks on its high, removed hill. I reach for the locket, for our Hemanthus. Neither is with me. I feel empty in this paradise. 3 walls of our hill castle stand atop 80 meters stone cliffs. The castle itself is huge. Its walls rise 30 meters. The gatehouse swells out from the walls as a fortress with turrets. Inside the walls, our square keep is part of the northwestern wall and rises 50 meters. A gentle slope leads up from the glen's floor to the castle's western gate, opposite the keep. We run down this slope along a lonely dirt road. Mist embraces us. I relish the cold air. It purifies me after hours of fitful sleep. The mist burns away as the summer day dawns. Deerling, thinner and faster than the creatures of earth, graze in the far woods. Birds circle above. A single raven promises eerie things. A sheep litter the field and goats wander the high, rocky hills we run up in a line of 50 and 1. Others of my house may see animals of earth or curious creatures that carvers decided to make for fun. But I see only food and clothing. The sacred animals of Mars make their home in our territory. Woodpeckers hammer oak and fir. At night, wolves howl across the highlands and stalk during the day through the woodlands. There are snakes near the river, vultures in the quiet gulches, killers running beside me. What friends I have. If only Lauren or Karen or Mateo were here to watch my back. Someone I could trust. I'm a sheep wearing wolf's clothing in a pack of wolves. As Fitchner runs us up the rocky heights, Leah, the girl with the limp, falls. He lazily nudges at her with his foot, till we carry her on our shoulders. Roke and I bear the load. Titus smirks, and only Cassius helps when Roke tires. Then Pollux, a lean, craggy-voiced boy with buzzed hair, takes over for me. He sounds like he's been smoking burners since he was 2. We trudge through a summer valley of forests and fields. Bugs nip at us there. The gold brows drip with sweat, but I do not. This is an icy bath compared to the rigors of my old fry suit. All about me are trim and fit. But Cassius, Severo, Antonia, Quinn, the bloody damn fastest girl or thing I've ever seen on 2 feet. Titus, 3 of his new friends, and I could leave the rest behind. Only Fitchner with his grav boots could outpace us. He bounds along like a deerling. Then he chases one down, and his razor whips out. It encircles the deerling's throat, and he contracts the blade to kill the animal. "Supper," he says, grinning. "Drag it." "You could have killed it closer to the castle," Severo mutters. Fitchner scratches his head and looks around. Did anyone else hear a squat, ugly little goblin go? Well, whatever sound goblins make. Drag it. Severo grabs the deer's leg. Dickwit. We reach the summit of a rocky height 5 kilometers southwest of our castle. A stone tower dominates the peak. From the top, we survey the battlefield. Somewhere out there, our enemies do the same. The theater of war stretches to the south, farther than we can see. A snowy mountain range fills the western horizon. To the southeast, a primordial wood knots the landscape. Dividing the two is a lush plain split by a massive southbound river, the Argos, and its tributaries. Farther south, past the plains and rivers, the ground dips away into marshes. I cannot see beyond. A great floating mountain hovers 2 kilometers up in the bluish sky. It is Olympus, Fitchner explains, an artificial mountain where the proctors watch each year's class. Its peak shimmers with a fairy tale castle. Leah shuffles closer to stand beside me. "How does it float?" she asks sweetly. I haven't the faintest clue. I look north. 2 rivers in a forested valley split our northern territory, which is at the edge of a vast wilderness. They form a V pointing southwest to the lowlands, where they eventually form one tributary to the Argos. Surrounding the valley are the highlands, dramatic hills and dwarf mountains, scarred with gulches where mist still clings. This is Phobos Tower, Fitchner says. The tower lies in the far southwest of our territory. He drinks from a canteen while we go thirsty, and points northwest where the 2 rivers meet in the valley to form their V. A massive tower crowns a distant dwarf mountain range just beyond the junction. And that is Deimos. He traces an imaginary line to show us the bounds of House Mars' territory. The eastern river is called the Furor. The western, which runs just south of our castle, is the Metos. A single bridge spans the Metos. An enemy would have to cross it to enter between the V into the valley and strike northeast across easy wooded ground to reach our castle. "This is a slagging joke, isn't it?" Severo asks Fitchner. "Whatever do you mean, goblin?" Fitchner pops a gum bubble. "Our legs are as wide as a pink horse. All these mountains and hills, and anyone can just walk right in the front door. It's a perfect flat passage from the lowlands right to our gate. Just one stinking river to cross." Pointing out the obvious, eh? You know I really do not like you, you foul little goblin. Fitchner stares at Severo for a purposeful moment, and then shrugs. "Anyway, I'll be on Olympus." "What does that mean, Proctor?" Cassius asks sourly. He doesn't like the look of things either, though his eyes are red from weeping through the night for his dead brother. It hasn't dulled his impressiveness. I mean, it's your problem, little prince, not mine. No one's going to fix anything for you. I am your proctor, not your mommy. You're in school, remember? So if your legs are open, well, make a chastity belt to protect the soft spot. There's general grumbling. Could be worse, I say. I point past Antonia's head toward the southern plains, where an enemy fortress spans a great river. We could be exposed like those poor bastards. Those poor bastards have crops and orchards, Fitchner muses. You have... He looks over the ledge to find the deer he killed. Well, Goblin here left the deer behind, so you have nothing. The wolves will eat what you do not. Unless we eat the wolves, Severo mutters, drawing strange looks from the rest of our house. So we have to get our own food. Antonia points to the lowlands. What are they doing? A black dropship slides down from the clouds. It settles in the center of the grassy plain, between us and the distant enemy river fortress of Ceres. 3 obsidians and a dozen tin pots stand guard as Browns hustle out to set hams, steaks, biscuits, wine, milk, honey, and cheeses onto a disposable table 8 kilometers from Phobos Tower. A trap, obviously, Severo snorts. Thank you, Goblin. Cassius sighs. But I haven't had breakfast. Circles ring his reckless eyes. He glances over at me through the crowd of our fellows and offers a smile. Up for a race, Darrow? I start with surprise. Then I smile. On your mark. And he's off. I've done dumber things to feed my family. I did dumber things when someone I loved died. Cassius is owed the company as he races down the steep hillside. 48 kids watch us scamper to fill our bellies. None follow. Bring me a slice of honeyed ham, Fitzner shouts. Antonia calls us idiots. The dropship floats away as we leave the highlands behind for gentler terrain. 8 kilometers in 7x grav, Earth standard, is a cinch. We scramble down rocky hillsides, then hit the lowland plains at full tilt through ankle-high grass. Cassius beats me to the tables by a body length. He's fast. We each take a pint of the ice water on the table. I drink mine faster. He laughs. Looks like the house Ceres mark on their flagpole, the harvest goddess. Cassius points over across the green plains to the fortress. A few trees dot the several kilometers between us and the castle. Pennants flap from their ramparts. He pops a grape into his mouth. We should take a closer look before chowing down. A little scouting? Agreed. But something isn't right here, I say quietly. Cassius laughs at the open plain. Nonsense. We'd see trouble if it was coming, and I don't think any one of them is going to be faster than us two. We can strut up to their gates and take a shit if we so like. I do have something brewing. I touch my stomach. Yet still something is wrong, and not just in my belly. It's 6 kilometers of open ground between the river fortress and us. The river gurgles in the distance to the right, forest to the far left, plains in front, mountains beyond the river. Wind rustles the long grass and a sparrow coasts in with the breeze. It swoops low to the ground before flinching up and away. I laugh loudly and lean against the table. They're in the grass, I whisper. A trap. We can steal sacks from them and carry more of this back, he says loudly. Run, Pixie. He grins, though neither of us is sure if we're allowed to start the fighting during orientation day. Whatever. On 3, We kick apart the disposable table's legs till we each have a meter of duroplastic as a weapon. I scream like a madman and sprint toward the spot where the sparrow fled, Cassius at my side. 5 house. Series goals rise from the grass. They're startled by our mad rush. Cassius catches the first in the face with a proper fencer's lunge. I'm less graceful. My shoulder is stiff and sore. I scream and break my weapon across one of their knees. He goes down, howling. Duck someone's swing. Cassius deflects it. We dance as 2. There's 3 of them left. One squares up with me. He doesn't have a knife or a bat. No, he has something I'm far more interested in. A question mark of a sword. A sling blade for reaping grain. He faces me with his backhand on his hip and the crooked blade out like a razor. If it were a razor, I'd be dead. But it's not. I make him miss, block one of Cassius's attacker's blows, lurch forward at my attacker. I'm much quicker than he, and my grip is like duro steel to his. So I take his sling blade and his knife before I punch him down. When he sees how I twirl the sling blade in my hand, the last uninjured boy knows it's time to surrender. Cassius jumps high in the 376 grav and executes an unnecessary twirling sideways kick to the boy's face. Reminds me of the dancers and lepers of Lycos. Cravat, the silent dance. Eerily similar to the boast dancing of young Reds. Nothing is silent about the boys' curses. I feel no pity for these students. They all murdered someone the night before. Just like me. There are no innocents in this game. The only thing that worries me is seeing how Cassius dispatched his victims. He has grace and finesse. I am rage and momentum. He could kill me in a second if he knew my secret. What a lark, he croons. You were gory terrifying. You just took his weapon, gory fast. Glad we weren't paired earlier. Prime stuff. What have you to say for yourselves, you sneaking fools? The captured girls just swear at us. I stand over them and cock my head. Is this the first time you've lost at something? No answer. I frown. Well, that must be embarrassing. Cassius's face shines. For a moment, he's forgotten his brother's death. I haven't. I feel darkness, hollow, evil, when the adrenaline fades. Is this what Io wanted? For me to play games. Fitzner arrives in the air above us, clapping his hands. His grav boots glimmer golden. He's got his ham slice between his teeth. Reinforcements come, he laughs. Titus and a half-dozen of the faster boys and girls run toward us from the highlands. Opposite, a golden shape rises from the distant river fortress and flies toward us. A beautiful woman with short-cropped hair settles next to Fitzner in the air, the proctor of the house series. She carries a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Mars, a picnic, she calls, referring to him by his house's deity. So, who arranged for this drama series? Fitzner asks. Oh, Apollo, I suppose. He's lonely up in his mountain estates. Here, this is Zinfandel from his vines. Much better than last year's varietal. Delicious, Fitzner proclaims. But your boys were squatting in the grass, almost as if they expected the picnic to spontaneously manifest. Suspicious? No. Details, Proctor Series laughs. Pedantic details. Well, here's a detail. It seems 2 of mine are worth 5 of yours this year, my dear. These pretty boys, Ceres snickers. I thought the vain ones went to Apollo and Venus. Oh ho. Well, yours certainly fight like housewives and farmers. Well placed they were. Don't judge them yet, you cad. They are mid-draft picks. My high drafts are elsewhere, earning their first calluses. Learning the ovens? Huzzah! Fitzner declares ironically. Bakers do make the best rulers, so I've heard. She nudges him. Oh, you devil. No wonder you interviewed for the Rage Night Post. Such a scoundrel. They clink their glasses together as we watch from the ground. How I love Orientation Day. Ceres titters. Mercury just let 100,000 rats loose in Jupiter's citadel. But Jupiter was ready because Diana tattled and arranged the delivery of 1,000 cats. Jupiter's boys won't go hungry like last year. Cats will be as fat as Bacchus. Diana's a harlot, Fittner declares. Be kind. I was. I sent her a great phallic cake filled with live woodpeckers. You didn't. I did. You beast. Ceres caresses his arm. I don't know what the free-loving demeanor these people have. I wonder if other proctors are lovers as well. Her fortress will be riddled with holes. Oh, the sound must be horrible. Well played, Mars. They say Mercury is the trickster, but your japes always have a certain flair. Flair, eh? Well, I'm sure I could rustle up some tricks for you on Olympus. Huzzah, she coos suggestively. They toast again, floating above their sweating and bloody students. I can't help but laugh. These people are mad, bloody damn crazy in their empty golden heads. How are they my rulers? Oi, Fitch, if you don't mind, what are we supposed to do with these farmers? Cassius calls up. He pokes one of our injured captives on the nose. What are the rules? Eat them, Fittner cries. And Dara put down that gory scythe. You look like a grain reaper. I don't drop it. It is close to the shape of my sling blade from home. Not as sharp because it isn't meant to kill. But the balance is no different. You know, you could let my children go and give them back the reaping scythe. Ceres suggests to us. Give me a kiss and you have a deal, Cassius calls up. The Imperator's boy? She asks Fittner. He nods. Come ask for one when you're scarred, little prince. She looks over her shoulder. Until then, I would advise you and the Reaper to run. We hear the hooves before we see the painted horses galloping at us across the plain. They come from the opened gates of House Ceres' castle. The girls on the horses' backs carry nets. They gave you horses? Horses, Fittner complains. That is so unfair. We run and barely make it to the woods. I didn't like my first encounter with horses. They still scare the piss out of me, all snorting and stomping. Cassius and I gasp for breath. My shoulder aches. 2 of Titus's reinforcements are captured as they find themselves stranded in open ground. Bold Titus knocks a horse over and is laughing as he's about to lay waste to one of the girls with his boot. Ceres zaps him with a stun fist and makes peace with Fittner. The stun fist causes Titus to piss himself. Only Severo is careless enough to laugh. Cassius says something about bad manners, but he snickers quietly. Titus notices. Are we allowed to kill them or not? Titus growls that night at dinner. We eat the leftovers from Bacchus's feast. Or am I going to get stunned every time? Well, the point isn't to kill them, Fittner says. So no. Let's not go around massacring your classmates, you mad ape. But we did before, Titus protests. What is wrong with you? Fittner asks. The passage was where the culling is done. It's no longer survival of the fittest, you mad, stupid, colossal sack of muscle. What would be the point if we now had the fittest just murder each other till only a few are left? There are new tests to pass now. Ruthlessness. Antonia crosses her arms. So now it's not acceptable? Is that what you're saying? Oh, it better be acceptable. Titus grins broadly. He's been boasting all night about knocking over the horse, as if it'd make everyone forget the piss that stained his pants. Some have. He's already gathered a pack of hounds. Only Cassius and I seem to have an ounce of his respect. But even we're smirked at. So is Fitner. Fitner sets down his honeyed ham. Let us clarify, children, so this water buffalo doesn't go around stomping on skulls. Ruthlessness is acceptable, dear Antonia. If someone dies by accident, that is understandable. Accidents happen to the best of us, but you will not murder each other with scorchers. You will not hang people from your ramparts unless they're already dead. Medbots are on standby in case any medical attention is direly needed. They are fast enough to save lives most of the time. Remember, though, the point is not to kill. We don't care if you're as ruthless as Vlad Dracula. He still lost. The point is to win. That's what we want. And that simple test of cruelty is already passed. We want you to show us your brilliance like Alexander, like Caesar, Napoleon, and Merrywater. We want you to manage an army, distribute justice, arrange for provisions of food and armor. Any fool can stick a blade into another's belly. The school's role is to find the leaders of men, not the killers of men. So the point, you silly little children, is not to kill, but to conquer. And how do you conquer in a game where there are 11 enemy tribes? Take them out one at a time, Titus answers knowingly. No, ogre. Dumbass, Severo snickers to himself. Titus's pack quietly watches the smallest boy in the institute. No threats are snarled. No faces twitch. Just a silent promise. It's hard to remember that they're all geniuses. They look too pretty, too athletic, too cruel to be geniuses. Anyone besides Ogre have a guess? Fitner asks. No one answers. You make one tribe out of 12, I finally say, by taking slaves. Just like the society, built on the backs of others. It isn't cruel. It is practical. Fitzner claps mockingly. Prime, Reaper. Prime. Looks like someone is bucking for Primus. Everyone shifts in agitation at that last bit. Fitzner pulls a long box from under the table. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you use to make slaves. He pulls out our standard. Protect this. Protect your castle, and conquer all the others. Chapter 22. The Tribes. Fitzner is gone in the morning. In his chair lies the standard. It is a 1-foot length of iron tipped with our howling wolf. A serpent coils beneath the wolf's feet, the star-tipped pyramid of the society beneath that. A 5-foot oak pole connects to the iron end. If the castle is our home, the standard is our honor. With it, we are able to turn enemies into our slaves by pressing it to their foreheads. There a wolf sigil will appear until another standard is pressed to the forehead. Slaves must obey our express commands or forever be shamed. I sit across from the standard in the morning dark, eating Apollo's leftovers. A wolf calls out in the mist. Its howl comes through the keep's high window. Tall Antonia is the first to join me. She glides in like a lonely tower or a beautiful golden spider. I haven't decided which way her personality runs. We exchange glances, but no greetings. She wants Primus. Cassius and raspy Pollux saunter in next. Pollux grumbles about having to go to bed without Pinks to tuck him in. A positively hideous standard, don't you think? Antonia complains. They could at least have given it a splash of color. I think it should be draped with red for rage and blood. It's not too heavy. Cassius hefts the standard by its pole. Reckoned it'd be gold. He admires the golden Primus hand within the block of black stone. He wants it too. And they gave us a map. Swell. A new stone map dominates one of the walls. The detail near our castle is remarkable. The rest less so. The fog of war. Cassius claps me on the back and joins in eating. He doesn't know I heard him weep again in the night. We shared a new bunk in the barracks, in the keep's high tower. Many others still sleep in the main tower. Titus and his friends have taken the low tower, even though they don't have enough bodies to fill it. Most of the house is woken by the time Severo drags in a dead wolf by its legs. It's already gutted and skinned. Goblin has brought victuals. Cassius applauds daintily. We will need firewood. Does anyone know how to make a fire? Severo does. Cassius grins. Of course you do, Goblin. Found the sheep too easy to kill? I ask. Where'd you get the weapon? Born with them. His fingernails are bloody. Antonia wrinkles her nose. Where in the hell were you raised? Severo presents his middle finger to her. The crooks. Ah. Antonia sniffs. Hell then. So, as I'm sure you've all noticed, it will be some time before anyone has enough bars of merit to become Primus, Cassius declares when we've all gathered around the table. Naturally, I was thinking that we need a leader before Primus is chosen. He stands and scoots away from Severo so that his fingers rest on the edge of the standard. In order for us to function, we must have immediate and coordinated decisions. And which of you two fools do you think it should be? Antonia asks dryly. Her large eyes glance from him to me. She turns to regard the others, voice sweet, like thick syrup. At this point, what makes any of us better suited to lead than anyone else? They got us dinner and breakfast, Leah says meekly from beside Roke. She gestures to the leftover picnic victuals. While running right into a trap, Roke reminds everyone. Antonia nods sagely. Yes, a wise point. Rashness can hurt us, but they did fight free, Roke finishes, earning a glare from Antonia, with table legs against real weapons. Titus rumbles his approval with the qualification, but then they fled and left the food behind, so it was Fitchner who gave us the food. They would have given it to the enemy, delivering food like Browns. Yeah, that's a twist on what happened, Cassius says. Titus shrugs. I only saw you running like a little pixie. Cassius goes cold. Watch your manners, Goodman. Titus holds up his hands, merely observing. Why so angry, little prince? You watch your manners, Goodman, or we'll have to trade our words for blades. Cassius wields his looted pitchfork and points it at Titus. You heed, Titus al Ladros? Titus holds gaze with him, then glances over at me, grouping me with Cassius. Suddenly, Cassius and I form a tribe in everyone's eyes. The paradigm shifts that quickly. Politics. I take my time twirling my looted knife between my fingers. The whole table watches the knife, Severo especially. My red right hand has collected 1,000,000 metric tons of helium-3 with its dexterity. My left, 500,000. The dexterity of an average low red would startle these golds. I dazzle them. The knife is like a hummingbird's wings in my nimble fingers. I look calm, but my mind is racing. We have all killed. Those were the stakes. What are they now? Titus has already made it clear that he wants to kill. I could stop him now, I wager. Drive my knife into his neck. But the thought almost makes me drop my blade. I feel Eo's death in my hands. I hear the wet thump of Julian dying. I can't bear the blood, especially when it doesn't seem necessary. I can back this huge puppy down. I level my eyes coldly at Titus. His smile is slow, the disdain barely noticeable. He's calling me out. I have to fight him, or something, if he doesn't look away. That's what wolves do, I think. My knife spins and spins, and suddenly Titus is laughing. He looks away. My heart slows. I've won. I hate politics, especially in a room full of alphas. Of course I hear you, Cassius. You're standing 10 feet away. Titus chuckles. Titus doesn't think he's strong enough to challenge Cassius and me openly, even with his pack. He saw what we did to the series boys, but just like that, the lines are drawn. I stand suddenly, confirming that I am with Cassius. It strips Titus of any momentum. Is there anyone who wouldn't want either of us to lead? I ask. I wouldn't want Antonia to lead. She's a bitch, Severo says. Antonia shrugs her agreement, but cocks her head. Cassie, why are you in such a rush to find us a leader? She asks. If we do not have one leader, then we will fracture and do as we each think is best, Cassius says. That's how we lose. Instead of what you think is best, she says, with a soft smile and a nod. I see. Don't give me that condescension, Antonia. Priam even agreed we needed one leader. Who is Priam? Titus laughs. He's trying to get attention back on himself once more. Every gold kid on the planet knew Priam. Now Titus tries to make it clear who killed him, and the others take note. Momentum regained, except I know Titus didn't kill Priam. They wouldn't put someone like him in with Priam. They would have put a weakling in there. So Titus is a liar as well as a bully. Ah, I see. Because you plotted with Priam, you know what needs to be done, Cassius. You know better than all of us. Antonia waves at the table. You're telling us we're helpless without your guidance. She's trapped him, and me too. Listen, boys, I know you're eager to lead, she continues. I get that. We are all leaders by nature. Each person in this room is a born genius, a born captain, but that is why the Primus merit system exists. When someone has earned 5 fingers of merit and is ready to be Primus, then we will have a leader. Until then, I say we hold out. If Cassius or Darrow earns it, then so be it. I'll do whatever they command, obedient as a pink, simple as a red. She gestures to the others. Until then, I think one of you should also have a chance to earn it. After all, it may decide your career. She's clever, and she's sunk us. Every brat in the room was no doubt wishing they'd been more assertive from the get-go. Wishing they could have another chance to make people notice them. Now Antonia gives it to them. This will be chaos, and she may end up as Primus. Definitely a spider. Look, Leah says from Roque's side. A horn bellows beyond the castle. The standard chooses that moment to shimmer. Snake and wolf shed iron for gleaming gold. Not only that, but the stone map on the wall comes alive. Our wolf banner ripples over a miniature of our castle. Ceres' banner does the same. No other castles mark the map. But the banners of the undiscovered houses flap off in the map's key. No doubt they'll find a home as soon as we scout the surrounding territory. The game has begun, and now everyone wants to be Primus. I see why democracy is illegal. First comes yelling, frustration, indecision, disagreement, ideas, scout, fortify, gather food, lay traps, blitz, raid, defense, offense. Pollux spits. Titus knocks him out cold. Antonia leaves. Severo says something snide to Titus and drags his wolf off to God knows where, never having lit a fire. It's like my Lambda drill team whenever a head talk would take an hour sick. That's how I learned I could drill. Barlow snuck off to take a smoke, and I hopped on the rig and did as I thought was best. I do the same now as the children bicker. Cassius, Roque, and Leah, who follows Roque everywhere, come with me. though Cassius likely thinks we follow him. We agree that the others will not know what to do, and so will inevitably do nothing today. They will guard the castle or seek out wood for a fire, or cluster around the standard for fear of it walking off. I don't know what to do. I don't know if our enemies are slinking through the hills toward us. I don't know if they're making alliance against Mars. I don't know how the damn game is even played. But for some reason, I assume that not all of the other houses will fall to discord like this. We of Mars seem more prone to disagreement. I ask Cassius what he thinks we should do. Once I challenged this prancing oaf to a duel for disrespecting my family, an Augustus fop. He was very methodical, tightened his gloves, tied back his pretty hair, swished his razor as he did before every gory practice bat he's ever had at the Aegean Martial Club. And I hooked him and stabbed him through the kneecap while he was still swishing his razor in preparation. He catches Leah's disapproval. What? The duel had begun. I'm foxy, but I'm not a beast. I just win. I feel like you all think that, I say. We all, I mean. They don't have noticed my slip-up. His point stands. Our house can't attack an enemy in our state, but an enemy could attack us as we run about preparing and ruin all my hopes of rising within the society. So, information. We need to know if our enemies are in a glen half a kilometer to the north, or if they are 15 kilometers south. Are we at a corner of the playing field, or in the center? Are there enemies in the highlands, north of the highlands? Cassius and I agree we must scout. We split up. Cassius and I head to Phobos, and then move counterclockwise. Leah and Roke strike to Deimos and scout clockwise. We're to meet at dusk. We don't see a soul from the top of Phobos. The lowlands are empty of horses and Ceres fighters, and the highland range to the south is full of lochs and goats. Southeast, atop a high dwarf mountain, we glimpse part of the great woods to the south and the southeast. An army of giants could be hiding there for all we know, and we can't investigate. It would take half a day to cover the distance to even make it close to the tree line. Some 10 kilometers from our castle, we find a weather-worn stone fort upon a low hill guarding a pass. Inside is a rustic survival box of iodine, food, a compass, rope, 6 durabags, a toothbrush, sulfur matches, and simple bandages. We store the items in a clear durabag. So supplies have been hidden about the valley. Something tells me there are more important items hidden in the countryside than little survivor kits. Weapons, transportation, armor, technology. They can't mean for us to make war with sticks and stones and metal tools. And if they don't want us to kill each other, stone weapons must soon replace our metal ones. We earn nasty sunburns that first day. The mist chills them as we return. Titus and his pack, 6 now, have just returned from a fruitless incursion to the plains. They've killed 2 goats but don't have a fire to cook with, since Severo slipped off somewhere. I don't tell them about my matches. Cassius and I agree that Titus, if he wants to be the big man, should at least be able to conquer fire. Severo, wherever he is, must agree as well. Titus's boys hit metal on stone, trying to create sparks, but the stones of the castle don't spark. Clever proctors, Titus's pack makes the dregs, the low drafts, fetch wood, despite the fact that they have no fires. They all go hungry that night. Only Roke and Leah don't. They get some of our survival bars. I like the pair even if they are Gauls, and I excuse befriending them by telling myself that I do it only to build my own tribe. Cassius seems to think that fast mid-draft girl, Quinn, will be useful. But he can make himself think that about most pretty girls. The tribes grow, and the first lesson is already underway. Antonia finds friends with a squat, sour, curly-headed fellow named Scipio, and she manages to send groups armed with shovels and axes found in the castle to garrison Deimos and Phobos. The girl may be a spoiled witch, but at least she isn't stupid. Then Titus's pack steals their axes as they sleep, and I revise my opinion. Cassius and I scout together. On the third day, we see smoke rising in the distance, maybe some 20 kilometers to the east. It is like a beacon in the dusk. Enemy scouting parties would be out like us. If it were closer, or we had horses, we could investigate. Or if we had more men, we might set out overnight and plan a raid for slaves. The distance and our lack of coherence makes all the difference. Between us and the smoke are ravines and gulches that could hide war bands. Then there's many kilometers of plains to walk exposed. We won't make the trek, not when some houses have horses. I don't tell Cassius this, but I am afraid. The highlands feel safe, but just out there in the landscape beyond are roving bands of psychotic godlings. Godlings I do not want to run across quite yet. The thought of meeting other houses is made all the more terrible by the idea that even home is not safe. It's like Octavia Olun always says, no man can pursue any endeavor in the face of tribal warfare. We can't afford to leave Titus alone for too long. He's already stolen berries Leah and Quinn collected, and this morning he tried to use the standard on Quinn to see if it could make slaves for his raiding parties out of the house's own members. It couldn't. We have to bind the house together somehow, Cassius tells me, as we scout the northern highlands. The Institute is with us for the rest of our lives. If we lose, we may never gain position, ever. And if we're enslaved during the course of the game, I ask. He looks worriedly over at me. What worse loss could there be? As if I needed more motivation. Your father won his year, I wager. He was Primus? I ask. To be an Imperator, he'd have to have won his year. Right. Always knew he won his year, though I had no slagging idea what that meant, till we got here. We both agree that in order to bind our house back together, Titus must go. But it is futile to fight him outright. That chance passed after the first day. His tribe has grown too large. I say we kill him in his sleep, Cassius suggests. You and I could do it. His words chill me. We make no decision, yet the proposition serves to remind me that he and I are different creatures. Or are we really? His wrath is a cruel, cold thing, yet I never see the anger again, not even around Titus. He's all smiles and laughter, and challenging members of Titus's pack to races and wrestling when they aren't going out on raids, just as I am around my enemies. Yet while I'm regarded warily by most, Cassius is loved by all, except Titus's pack. He's even started sneaking off with Quinn. I like her. She killed a deer with a trap, then told a story about how she killed the thing with her teeth. Even showed us evidence hair between her teeth and gums along with bite marks on the deer. We thought we had a prettier Severo on our hands, till she laughed too hard to go on with the tall tale. Cassius helped her get the deer hair out of her teeth. I like a committed liar. Conditions worsen in the first few days. People remain hungry because we've yet to build a fire in the castle, and hygiene is quickly forgotten when two of our girls are snatched up by Ceres's horsemen as they bathe in the river just beneath our gate. The Gauls are confused when even their fine pores begin clogging and they gain pimples. Looks like a bee sting, Roke laughs to Cassius and me, or a radial distant sun. I pretend to be fascinated by it, as though I didn't have them all my red life. Cassius leans forward to inspect it. Brother man, that is just... Then Roke pops the pimple right into Cassius's face, causing him to reel back and gag from disgust. Quinn falls over, giggling. I do wonder sometimes. Roke begins after Cassius has recovered. As to the purpose of all this, how can this be the most efficient method of testing our merit? Of making us into beings who can rule the society? And do you ever come to a conclusion? Cassius asks warily. He keeps his distance now. Poets never do, I say. Roke chuckles. Unlike most poets, I sometimes manage, and I have our answer to this. Spit it out, Cassius urges, as though I wasn't going to without instruction from our resident prima donna. Roke sighs. They have us here because this valley was humanity before gold ruled. Fractured, disunited even in our very own tribe. They want us to go through the process that our forefathers went through. Step by step, this game will evolve to teach us new lessons. Hierarchies within the game will develop. We'll have reds, golds, coppers. Pinks? Cassius asks hopefully. Makes sense, I say. Oh, that would be ripe strange. Cassius laughs, twisting his wolf ring on his finger. Mothers and fathers would be throwing fits if that went on. Probably why Titus leers at the girls. He likely wants a toy. Speaking of toys, where did he send Vixus? I laugh. Vixus, likely the most dangerous of Titus's followers, and the others departed nearly 2 hours ago on Titus's orders to use Phobos Tower's height advantage to scout the plains in preparation for a raid on House Ceres. It'd be best to have Vixus on our side if we make a play, I say. He's Titus's right hand. Roke continues on a different train of thought. I don't know about pinks, Roke says. The idea of a gold being a pink offends him. But the rest is simple. This is a microcosm of the solar system. Seems to me like capture the flag with swords, if you recall that game, I reply. I never played the sport, but my studying with Matteo brought me up to speed on the games these children played in their parents' gardens. Mm-hmm. Cassius nods. He shoves a mock-serious finger in Roke's chest. Agreed. So you can take your quick talk and put it where the sun dare not shine, Roke. We two great minds have decided it's a game of capture the flag. I see. Roke laughs. Not all men can understand metaphor and subtlety like me. But do not fear, muscular friends. I will be here to guide you through the mind-bending things. For instance, I can tell you that our first test will be to piece the house back together again before an enemy comes a-knocking. Hell, I mutter, looking out over the edge of the parapet. Something in your bum? Cassius asks. Looks like the game just started. I point downward. Across the glen, just where the forest meets the grass plain, Vixus drags a girl by her hair. The first slave of House Mars, and far from being revolted, I'm jealous. Jealous that I did not capture her. Titus's minion did, and that means that Titus now wields credibility. Chapter 23, Fracture. Though we all still sleep under the same roof, it took only 4 days for the house to dissolve into 4 tribes. Antonia, apparently the scion of a family that owns a sizable asteroid belt, gets the mid-drafters, the talkers, the whiners, the brains, the dependents, the wimps, the snobs, and the politicos. Titus draws mostly high drafts, or mid-drafts, the physical specimens, the violent, the fast, the intrepid, the prototypically intelligent, the ambitious, the opportunists, the obvious selection for House Mars. The prodigy pianist, quiet Cassandra, is his. So is raspy Pollux, and the psychotic Vixus, who shivers with pleasure at the mere idea of putting metal into flesh. If Cassius and I had been more political, we might have managed to steal the high drafts from Titus. Hell, we might have had everyone ready to follow if we just told them they had to obey. After all, Cassius and I were the strongest for a brief moment. But then we gave Titus time to intimidate, and Antonia time to manipulate. Damned Antonia, I say. Cassius laughs and shakes his golden head as we bound east along the highlands in search of more hidden caches of supplies. My long legs can cover a kilometer in just over a minute. Oh, you come to expect these things from her. If our families hadn't spent holidays together when we were little things, I might have called her out as a Democrat on the first day. But she's hardly that. More like Caesar, or what do they call them? Presidents? A tyrant in necessities, clothing. She's a turd in the swill bowl, I say. What the gory slag does that mean? Cassius laughs. Uncle Nero could have told him, sorry. Oh, heard it in Yorkton, once from a high red. Means she's a fly in the wine. A high red. Cassius snorts. One of my nannies was a high red. I know, odd. Should have been a brown. But the woman would tell me stories as I tried to go to sleep. That's nice, I say. I thought her an uppity bugger. Tried to tell Mother to make her shut up and leave me alone, because all she wanted to do was talk about veils and dreary romances that always ended in some sort of sadness. Depressing creature. What did your mother do when you complained? Mother, Pa. She clapped me on the head and said, there's always something to learn from anybody. Even a high red. She and Father like to pretend they're progressives. Confuses me. He shakes his head. But Yorkton. Julian couldn't believe you were from Yorkton. The darkness returns in me. Even thinking of EO doesn't dispel it. Even thinking of my noble mission and all the license it gives me doesn't banish the guilt. I am the only one who shouldn't feel guilty for the passage. Yet besides Roke, I think I'm the only one who does. I look at my hands and remember Julian's blood. Cassius points up suddenly to the sky southwest of us. What the gory hell? Dozens of blinking medbots pouring from floating Olympus's castle. We hear their distant whine. Proctors flicker after them like flaming arrows toward the distant southern mountains. Whatever has happened, one thing is certain. Chaos reigns in the south. Although my tribe continues to sleep in the castle, we've moved from the high tower to the gatehouse so we don't have to rub shoulders with Titus' lot. To keep safe, we leave our cooking a secret. We meet our tribe for supper by a loch in the northern highlands. They're not all high drafts. We have some, Cassius and Rogue, but then no one above 17th pick. We have some mid-drafts, Quinn and Leah. But the rest are the dregs, the low drafts, Clown, Screwface, Weed, Pebble, and Thistle. This bothers Cassius, even though the dregs of the Institute are still certifiably superhuman compared with the rest of the colors. They are athletic. They are resilient. They never ask you to repeat yourself unless you're making a point. And they accept my orders, even anticipating what next I'll ask them to do. I credit their less privileged upbringings. Most are smarter than I, but I have that unique thing they call slang smarts, proven by my high score in the extrapolation intelligence test. Not that it matters. I have sulfur matches, and that makes me the god Prometheus. Neither Antonia nor Titus have fire, as far as I know, so I'm the only one who can fill bellies. I make each of my tribe kill goats or sheep. No one is allowed to freeload, even though Screwface tries his best. They don't notice my hands trembling when I cut my first goat's throat with a knife. There's so much trust in the beast's eyes, followed by confusion as it dies, still thinking me its friend. The blood is warm, like Julian's, the neck muscle tough. I have to saw with a dull knife just as Leah does when she kills her first sheep, squealing as she does it. I make her skin it too, with Thistle's help. And when she cannot, I take her hands into my own and guide her along, giving her my strength. "Daddy going to have to cut up your meat for you too?" Thistle taunts. "Shut it," Rogue says. "She can fight her own battles, Rogue." "Leah, Thistle asked you a question." Leah blinks over at me, wide eyes confused. "Ask her another, Thistle." "What's going to happen when we get in a tight spot with Titus? Will you squeal then, too?" "Child." Thistle knows what I want her to do. I asked her to do it 30 minutes ago before I brought the goat to Leah. I motion my head at Leah to Thistle. "You gonna cry?" Thistle asks. "Wipe your eyes in..." Leah snarls and jumps at her. The two roll around, punching each other in the face. It's not long before Thistle's got Leah in a chokehold. Rogue stirs beside me. Quinn pulls him back down. Leah's face goes purple. Her hands slap at Thistle's, then she passes out. I give Thistle a nod of thanks. The dark-faced girl gives a slow nod. Leah's shoulders are squarer the next morning. She even musters enough courage to hold Rogue's hand. She also claimed to be a better cook than the rest of us. She isn't. Rogue tries his hand, but he's hardly any better. Eating their grub is like taking down stringy, dry sponges. Even Quinn, with all her stories, can't muster up a recipe. We cook goat and deer meat over our camp kitchen 6 kilometers from the castle, and we do it at night, in the gulches, so the light and smoke cannot be seen. We do not kill the sheep. Instead, we collect and deposit them in a northern fort for safekeeping. I could bring more over to my tribe with the food, but the food is as big a danger as it is a boon. What Titus and his killers would do if he found that we had fire, food, clean water. I am returning to the castle with Rogue from a scouting trip to the south, when we hear noises coming from a small grove of trees. Creeping closer, we hear grunts and hacking sounds. Expecting to see a wolf pack ravaging a goat, we peer through the brush and find 4 of Titus's soldiers squatting around a deer corpse. Their faces are bloody, eyes dark and ravenous as they tear strips out of the dead deer with their knives. 5 days without fire, 5 days of bad berries, and they've already turned into savages. We have to give them matches, Rogue tells me afterward. The stones here don't spark with flint. No. If we give them matches, then Titus will have even more power. Does it matter at this point? They're going to get sick if they keep eating raw meat. They already are sick. So, they shit their pants. I grunt. There are worse things. Tell me, Darrow, would it be worse to have Titus in power and have Mars strong? Or for Darrow to be in power with Mars weak? Better for whom? I ask petulantly. He only shakes his head. Let them rot their gory bellies, is Cassius's opinion. They made their beds, now let them shit in them. My army agrees. I am fond of my army, the dregs, the low drafts. They aren't as entitled or well-bred as the high drafts. Most remember to thank me when I give them food. At first, they didn't. They don't prance off after Titus on midnight axe raids simply because it gets their jollies off. No, they follow us because Cassius is as charismatic as the sun, and in his light, the shadow I cast looks like it knows what it's doing. It doesn't. It, like me, was born in a mine. Still, it does seem like I have some strategy. I have us make maps of our territory on DG slates we found in a waterlogged cellar at the bottom of a ravine. But we still have no weapons other than my sling blade and several knives and sharpened sticks. so whatever strategy we have is based on acquiring information. Funny thing is, only one tribe has a silver shit's idea of what is going on. And it's not ours, it's not Antonia's, and it sure as hell isn't Titus. It's Severo's. And I'm nearly certain he's the only member in that tribe, unless he's adopted wolves by now. It's hard to say if he has or hasn't. Our house doesn't have family dinners, though occasionally we'll see him running along the hillsides at night in his wolf skin, looking, as Cassius put it best, like some sort of hairy demon child on hallucinogens. And once Rogue even heard something, not a wolf, howling in the shrouded highlands. Some days, Severo walks around, all normalish, insulting everything that moves, except for Quinn. He makes an exception for her, delivering meats and edible mushrooms instead of insults. I think he's sweet on her, even though she's sweet on Cassius. We ask her to tell us stories about him, but she won't. She's loyal. And maybe that's why she reminds me of home. She's always telling good stories, most of them certainly gilded lies. A life spark is in her, just like the one that was in my wife. She's the last of us to call Goblin Severo. She's also the only one who knows where he lives. Even with all our scouting, we can't find a trace of where he sleeps. For all I know, he's out taking scalps beyond the highlands. I know Titus has sent scouts to stalk him, but I don't think they are successful. They can't even follow me. I know that rubs Titus raw. I think he's wanking off in the bushes. Cassius chuckles, just waiting for us all to kill each other. It's when Leah comes limping back to the castle that Roke seeks Cassius and me out. They beat her, he says. Not bad, but they kicked her in the stomach and took her day's labor. Who? Cassius bristles. Who's the slagger? Doesn't matter. What matters is they are hungry, so stop playing at an eye for an eye. This can't go on, Roke says. Titus's boys are starving. What do you expect they'll do? Hell, the big brute is hunting Goblin because he needs fire and food. If we just give that to him, we can unite the house, maintain civility. Maybe even Antonia will bring her tribe to reason. Antonia? Reason? Cassius asks, guffawing. Even if that happens, Titus will still be the most powerful, I say. And that's not the cure for anything. Ah, yes, that's something you can't abide. Someone else having power. Fine, then. Roke tugs at his long hair. Talk to Vixus or Pollux. Take away his captains if you must, but heal the house, Darrow. Otherwise we'll lose when another house comes knocking. On the 6th day, I take his advice. Knowing Titus is out raiding, I risk seeing Vixus in the keep. Unfortunately, Titus returns earlier than expected. You're looking lively and spry, he says to me before I can find Vixus in the keep's stone holes. He blocks my path with his large body, shoulders nearly spanning the width of the hole. I feel another in the hallway behind me, Vixus and 2 others. My stomach sinks a little. It was stupid to do this. Where are you going, if I may ask? I wanted to compare our scouting maps to the main map in the command room. I lie, knowing I have a digislate in my pocket. Oh, you wanted to compare scouting maps to the main map. For the good of Mars, noble Darrow. What other good is there? I ask. We are all on the same side. No. Oh, we are on the same side, he says. Titus booms an insincere laugh. Vixus, if we are on the same side, don't you think it would be best if we shared his little maps with one another? It would be for the very best. Vixus agrees. Mushrooms, maps, all the same. So, he assaulted little Leah. His eyes are dead, like raven eyes. Yes, so I'll take a look for you, Darrow. Titus snatches the scouting maps from me. There's nothing I can do to stop him. You're welcome to them, I say, so long as you know there are enemy fires to the far east and likely enemies in the great woods to the south. Raid all you like, just don't get caught with your pants down. Titus sniffs the air. He wasn't listening to me. Since we are sharing, Darrow. He sniffs again, closer to my neck. Perhaps you will share with us why you smell like wood smoke. I stiffen, not knowing what to do. Look at him squirm. Look at him weave a lie. Titus's voice is all disgust. I can smell your deceit. Smell the lies dripping from you like sweat. Like a woman in heat, Pollux says sardonically. He shrugs apologetically at me. Disgusting, Vixus sneers. He's a vile thing, a wretched womanish thing. I don't know why I thought I'd be able to turn him on Titus. You're a little parasite, Titus continues, nibbling away at morale because you will not come to heal, waiting for my noble boys and girls to starve. They're closing in on me from behind, from the sides. Titus is huge. Pollux and Vixus are cruel, nearly as big as I. You're a wretched creature, a worm in our spine. I shrug casually, trying to let them think I'm not worried. We can fix this, I say. Oh? Titus asks. The solution is simple, big man, I counsel. Bring your boys and girls home. Stop raiding Ceres every day before some other house comes in and slaughters you all. Then we'll talk about fire, about food. You think you can tell us what to do, Darrow? That's the thrust of it? Vixus asks. Think you're better because you scored higher on the stupid little test? Because the proctors chose you first? He does. Titus chuckles. He thinks he deserves Primus. Vixus's hawkish face leans close to mine, lips smearing each word. Handsome in repose. His lips peel back cruelly now, and his breath stinks as he looks me over, measuring me and trying to make me think he's not impressed. He snorts a contemptuous laugh. I see him shifting his head to spit in my face. I let him. The glob of phlegm hits, and it drips slowly down my cheek toward my lips. Titus watches with a wolfish smile. His eyes glimmer. Vixus looks to him for encouragement. Pollux comes closer. You're a pampered little prick, Vixus says. His nose nearly brushes mine. So that's what I'm going to take from you, Goodman. Your little prick. Or you could let me leave, I say. You seem to be blocking the door. Ho ho, he laughs, looking at his master. He's trying to show he's not afraid, Titus, trying to avoid a fight. He looks at me with those golden, dead eyes. I've broken uppity boys like you in the dueling clubs 1,000 times. You have? I ask incredulously. Broken them like twigs and then taken their girls for sport. What embarrassments I've made of them in front of their fathers. What weeping messes I make of boys like you. Oh, Vixus, I say with a sigh, keeping the tremble of anger and fear out of my voice. Vixus, 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 there are no boys like me. I look back at Titus to make sure our eyes are joined when I casually, as if I were dancing, loop my helldiver hand around and slam it into the side of Vixus's neck at the jugular with the force of a sledgehammer strike. It ruins him, yet I hit him with an elbow, a knee, my other hand as he falls. Had his legs been anchored better, the first strike might have snapped his neck in half. Instead, he cartwheels sideways in the low gravity, going horizontal and shuddering from my raining blows as he hits the ground. His eyes go blank. Fear rises in my belly. My body is so strong. Titus and the others are too startled by the sudden violence to stop me as I spin past their outstretched hands and run down the halls. I did not kill him. I did not kill him. Chapter 24. Titus's War. I did not kill Vixus, but I killed the chance of uniting the house. I sprint down the keep's winding stairwells, shouts behind me. I pass Titus's lounging students. They're sharing bits of raw fish they managed to spear from the river. They could trip me if they knew what I've done. 2 girls watch me go by, and hearing their leader shout, are too late in moving. I'm past their hands, past the keep's lower gatehouse, and into the main square of the castle. Cassius! I call up at the gatehouse to the castle where my men sleep. Cassius! He peeks his head out the window and sees my face. Oh shit! Roke, he shouts. It's happened! Raise the dregs! 3 of Titus' boys and 1 of his girls chase after me across the courtyard. They're slower than I, but another is coming from their post on the wall to cut me off. Cassandra. Her short hair jingles with bits of metal she's woven in. Effortlessly, she hops down the 8 meters from the parapet, an axe in hand, and races to intersect my path before I reach the stairs. Her golden wolf ring glimmers in the ebbing light. She's a beautiful sight. Then my entire tribe pours out of the gatehouse. They bring their makeshift packs, their knives, and the beating sticks we carved from felled branches so from our woods. But they do not set toward me. They are bright, so they crank open the huge double gates that separate the castle from the long, sloping path leading down to the glen. Mist seeps through the open gate, and they disappear into the murk. Only Quinn is left behind. Quinn, the fastest of Mars. She bounds along the cobblestone like a gazelle, coming to my aid. Her beating stick twirls in the air. Cassandra doesn't see her. A long, golden ponytail flops in the chill night air as Quinn winds up, a smile on her face, and blindsides Cassandra from the flank, hitting her full force in the knee with her beating stick. The crack of the wood on strong gold bone is loud. So is Cassandra's scream. Her leg doesn't break, but she flips onto the cobblestone. Quinn does not slow her stride. She swoops in beside me, and together we leave Titus's pack behind. We catch up with the others in the bowl of the glen. Setting across the rugged hills, we aim toward our northern fort in the deep mist-shrouded highlands. Vapor clings to our hair, dripping off in pearls. We reach the fort well past midnight. It is a cavernous, barren tower that leans over a ravine like a drunken wizard. Lichen covers the thick gray stone. Mist swaddles its parapets, and we make our first meal of the birds in the eaves of the single tower. Some escape. I hear their wings in the dark night. Our civil war has begun. Unfortunately, Titus is not a stupid enemy. He does not come for us as we thought he would. I had hoped he would come try and lay siege to our north fort, that his army would see our fires inside the stone walls and smell the meat as it sizzled in fat. The sheep we gathered earlier would have lasted us weeks, months, if we had water. We could have feasted every night. They would have broken then. They would have left Titus behind. But Titus knows of my weapon, fire, so he avoids us so that his boys and girls cannot see what luxuries we have. He does not let his tribe alone long enough to think. Frenzy, war, numb the sense in man. So they raid House Ceres from the 6th day on, and he creates trophies for acts of bravery and violence, giving boys and girls marks in blood on their cheeks that they bear proudly. We slink along, watching their war parties from the brush and the tall grasses of the plains. Sometimes we gain a vantage on the southern highland peaks near Phobos. From there, we witness the siege of House Ceres. Around House Ceres, the smoke rises in a sullen crown. Apple trees are hewn down, horses stolen. Titus's raiders even lasso a torch from one of the Ceres ramparts in an attempt to bring fire to Mars's castle. Ceres' horsemen ride them down with pails of water before they reach home. Titus shrieks in rage when this happens, and the Ceres horses fly by, dousing the flame with water before circling home. With his best soldier, Vixus, he upends one of the horses with a tree branch, fashioned like a pike. The rider spills from the saddle and pollexes on her. They take 2 more slaves that day, and Titus takes the horse for himself. It is on our 8th day that the Institute and I watch the siege with Cassius and Roke from the highlands. Today, Titus rides the captured horse beneath the wall of House Ceres with a lasso, daring their archers to shoot their arrows at him and his Soltien and his horse. One poor girl leans her head out to get a better angle with her bow. She draws the arrow back to her ear, aims, and just before she's about to loose the arrow, Titus hurls his lasso upward. It flails through the air. She jerks back, not fast enough. The lasso loops her neck, and Titus kicks his horse away from the wall, tightening the lasso. Her friends scramble to grab her. They hold tight, but are forced to let go before her neck snaps. Her friends' screams echo across the plains as she's jerked violently down from the top of the wall and dragged by Titus back to his cheering followers. There, Cassandra kicks the girl to her knees and enslaves her with our standard. The flames from the burning crops lick up into the twilight, where several proctors hover with flagons of wine and a tray of some rare delicacy. A violent heart set harshest flame, Roke murmurs from his knee. He's bold, I say deferentially, and he likes this. His eyes sparkled when I struck Vixus in the throat. Cassius nods along. Too much. He is lethal, Cassius agrees, but he means something different. I look over at him. There's a raw edge to his voice. And he's a liar. He is, I ask. He didn't kill Priam. Roke becomes quiet. Smaller than us, he seems a child as he remains on a knee. His long hair is held in a ponytail. Dirt crusts his nails, which scrabble when tying his shoes, as he looks up. He didn't kill Priam, Cassius repeats. The wind moans over the hills behind us. Night comes slow today. Cassius's cheeks sink into shadow. Still, he's handsome. They wouldn't have put Priam with a monster like Titus. Priam's a leader, not a warlord. They'd put Priam with someone easy, like one of our dregs. I know where Cassius is going with this. It's in the way he watches Titus. The coldness in his eyes reminds me of a pit viper's gaze as it follows its prey. My insides turn sour as I do it. But I lead Cassius in the direction he seems to want to go, inviting him to bite. Roke tilts his head at me, noticing something strange in my interaction with Cassius. And they would give Titus someone else, I say. Someone else. Cassius repeats, nodding. Julian, he is thinking. He doesn't say it, neither do I. Better to let it fester in his mind. Let my friend think our enemy killed his brother. This is a way out. Blood begets. Blood begets. Blood begets blood. Roke's words into the wind, which carries west towards the long plain and towards the flames that dance in the low horizon. Beyond, the mountains hunker, cold and dark. Snow already gathers on their peaks. It's a sight to steal one's breath. Yet Roke's eyes never leave my face. I find it a small pleasure that Titus's slaves are not very effective allies for him. Far from being indoctrinated as thoroughly as a Red might be, these newly made slaves are stubborn creatures. They follow orders or risk being labeled shamed after graduation, but they purposefully never do more or less than he demands. It is their act of rebellion. They fight where he tells them to fight, whom he tells them to fight, even when they should retreat. They gather the berries he shows them, even if they know they are poisonous, and pile stones till the pile falls over. But if there is an open gate leading to the enemy's fortress, and Titus doesn't tell them to go into it, they'll stand there and pick their butts. Despite the addition of slaves and the raising of Ceres' crops and orchards, Titus's force, which is quite sound at violence, is pitiful when they attempt to do anything else. His men empty their bowels in shallow latrines, or behind trees, or in the river in an attempt to poison the students of House Ceres. One of his girls even falls in after emptying her bowels into the water. She flails around in her own waste. It's a scene of comedy, but laughter has become seldom, except from the students of Ceres. They sit behind their high walls and catch fish from the river and eat breads from their ovens and honey from their apiaries. In response to the laughter, Titus drags one of the male slaves up in front of the gate. The slave is a tall one with a long nose and a mischievous smile meant for the ladies. He thinks this is all a game, till Titus cuts off one of his ears. Then he cries for his mother like a young child. He will never command warships. The proctors, even House Ceres, do not stop the violence. They watch from the sky in 2s and 3s, floating about as medbots wind down from Olympus to cauterize a wound or treat severe head trauma. On the 20th morning of the Institute, the defenders throw a basket of bread loaves down as Titus's men attempt to batter in the tall gate with a felled tree. The besiegers end up fighting each other for the food, only to find that the bread was baked around razor blades. The screams last till the afternoon. Titus's reply comes just before night falls, with 5 newly minted slaves, including the male with the missing ear. He approaches the gate till he's near a mile off. He parades in front of the slaves, holding 4 long sticks in his hand. These he gives to each of the slaves, except the girl he pulled down from the ramparts with a lasso. With a low bow to the Ceres gate, he waves a hand and orders the slaves to commence beating the girl. Like Titus, she is tall and powerful, so it is difficult to pity her at first. The slaves hit the girl gingerly with the initial swings. Then Titus reminds them of the shame that will forever mark their names if they do not obey. They swing harder. They aim for the girl's golden head. They hit her till her shouts have long faded, and blood mats her blonde hair. When Titus grows bored, he drags the wounded girl back to his camp by her hair. She slides limply over the earth. We watch from our place in the highlands, and it takes Leah and Quinn both to stop Cassius from sprinting down into the plains. The girl will live, I tell him. The sticks are all show. Roke spits bitterly into the grass and reaches for Leah's hand. It's odd seeing her give him strength. The next morning we discover that Titus's reply did not stop with the beating. After we retired to our castle, Titus snuck back in the dead of night to hide the girl directly in front of the Ceres gate underneath a thick blanket of grass, gagged and tied. Then he had one of his female followers shriek during the night to pretend she was the slave at the camp. She screamed of rape and violations. Maybe the captured Ceres girl thought she was safe under the grass. Maybe she thought the proctors would save her and she would go home to mother and father, home to her equestrian lessons, home to her puppies and her books. But in the early dark of morning, she's trampled as riders, enraged by the fake screams, gallop from the Ceres fortress to rescue her from Titus's makeshift camp. They only learn of their folly when they hear the medbots descending behind them to carry her broken body up to Olympus. She never returns. Still, the proctors do not interfere. I'm not sure why they even exist. I miss home. Lycos, of course, but also the place where I was safe with Dancer and Matteo and Harmony. Soon, there are no more slaves to take. House Ceres does not come out after dark anymore, and their high walls are guarded. The trees outside the wall have all been cut down, but there are crops and more orchards inside their long walls. Bread still bakes and the river still flows within their ramparts. Titus can do nothing but savage their land and steal what remains of their apples. Most have been sown with needles and stingers from wasps. Titus has failed. And so, as do those of any tyrant after a failed war, his eyes turn inward. Chapter 25, Tribal War. 30 days into the Institute, and have not seen evidence of another enemy house except for the smoke signs of distant fires. House Ceres' soldiers roam the eastern fringes of our land. They ride with impunity now that Titus's tribe has retreated into our castle. Castle. No, it has become a hovel. I come upon it with Roke in the early morning. Fog still clings to the four spires, and the light struggles to penetrate the dreary sky of our highland climate. Sounds from inside the stone walls echo into the quiet morning, like coins rattling about in a tin can. Titus's voice. He's cursing at his tribesmen to get up. Apparently, few do. Someone tells him to go slag himself, and it's little wonder. The bunk beds are the only real amenity the castle has, no doubt put there to encourage slothfulness. My tribe has no such amenities. We sleep on stone, curled next to one another, around our crackling fires. Oh, what I'd give for a bed again. Cassius and I slink along the slanted dirt road that leads to the gatehouse. We can hardly even see it. The fog is so thick. More sounds from inside. It seems like the slaves are up. I hear coughs, grumbling, and a few shouts. A long creak, and the clatter of chains means the gate is opening. Cassius pulls me off to the side of the road, tucking us into the mist as the slaves shuffle past. Their faces are pallid in the low light. Hollows make homes in their sunken cheeks, and their hair has been dirtied, mud-caked skin around their sigils. He passes near enough to me that I smell his body odor. I stiffen suddenly, worried he will again smell the smoke on me, but he doesn't. Beside me, Cassius is quiet, yet I feel his anger. We sneak back down the path and watch the slaves toil from the relative safety of the woods. They are not Oreads, as they scrub shit and scavenge for berries in the sharp thistle bushes. One or two are missing ears. Vixus, recovered from my attack, except for a huge purple bruise on his neck, walks around slapping at them with a long stick. If the test is to unite a Phraxius house, I am failing. As early morning fades and appetites change with the arrival of warm sunshine, Cassius and I hear a sound that makes our skin prickle. Screams. Screams from the high tower of Mars. They are a particular sort, the kind to darken the spirits. When I was a boy in Lycos, my mother was serving me soup at our stone family table the night of a laurel tide. It was a year after my father died. Kieran and Liana sat with me, neither yet older than 10. A single light unit flickered on and off above the table, so Mum was shrouded in darkness except for her arm from the elbow down. Then came the scream, muffled by distance and the twists of our cavern township. I still see how the broth quivered in the ladle, how my mother's hand shook when she heard it. Screams, not of pain, but of horror. What he's doing to the girls. Cassius hisses to me as we slink away from the castle as night descends. He's a beast. This is war, I say, though the words sound hollow, even in my own ears. It's school, he reminds me. What if Titus did this to our girls, to Leah, to Quinn? I say nothing. We would kill him, Cassius answers for me. We would kill him, cut his prick off, and shove it in his mouth. And I know he's also thinking of what Titus must have done to Julian. Despite Cassius's mutterings, I take his arm and pull him away from the castle. The gates are locked against the night. There is nothing we can do. I feel helpless again, helpless as when Ugly Dan took Io from me. But I am different now. My hands turned to fists, and I am more than I was then. On our way back to our north fort, I see a glimmer in the air. Golden grav boots shimmer as Fichtner descends. He's chewing gum and holds his heart when he sees our evil glances. Whatever did I do, young friends, to earn such glares? He's treating the girls like animals, Cassius seethes. Veins in his neck stand out. They are golds, and he is treating them like dogs, like pinks. If he is treating them like pinks, then it is because they merited no better in this little world than pinks do in our big world. You're joking. Cassius can't understand. They are golds, not pinks. He's a monster. Then prove you're a man and stop him, Fichtner says. As long as he's not murdering them one by one, it's not our concern. All wounds heal, even these. That's a lie, I tell him. I'll never be healed of Io. That pain will last forever. Some things do not fade. Some things can never be made right. Yet we do nothing because he has more fighters. Cassius spits. An idea sweeps over me. We can fix that. Cassius turns to me. He hears the deadness in my voice, just as I see it in his eyes when he speaks of Titus. That's a peculiar thing we share. We are made of fire and ice, though I am not sure which of us is ice and which is fire. Nevertheless, extremes rule us more than we'd like. That is why we are of Mars. You have a plan, Cassius says. I nod coldly. Fichtner watches us too, and he grins. About gory damn time. The plan starts with a concession only someone once a husband could make. Cassius cannot stop laughing when I tell him the details. Even Quinn snorts a laugh the next morning. Then she's off, running like a deer to Deimos Tower to bring my formal apology to Antonia. She's to meet me with Antonia's response at one of our supply caches near the Guro River, north of the castle. Cassius guards our new fort with the remainder of our tribe in case Titus tries to attack, while Roke and I go to the supply cache during the day. Quinn does not come. Dusk does. Despite the dark, we trace the path she would have taken from Deimos Tower. We go till we reach the tower itself, which sits in the low hills surrounded by thick woods. 5 of Titus's men lounge around its base. Roke grabs me and pulls me down into the woods brush. He points to a tree 50 meters distant, where Vixus sits hidden in wait on a high branch. Did they catch Quinn? No. She's too fast to be caught. Did someone betray us? We return to our fort by early morning. I'm sure I've been more tired, but I can't remember when. Blisters ruin my feet despite the fitted shoes, and my neck peels from long days in the sun. Something is wrong. Leah meets me by the fort's gate. She hugs Roke and looks up at me like I'm her father or something. She is not her usual timid self. Her bird-like body shakes, not from fear, but anger. You have to kill that piece of filth, Darrow. You have to cut his slagging balls off. Titus, what happened? I look around. Leah, where is Cassius? She tells me. Titus captured Quinn as she was on her way back from the tower. They beat her. Then Titus sent one of her ears here. It was meant for me. They thought Quinn was my girl, and Titus thinks he knows my temper. They got the reaction they wanted, just not from me. Cassius was on watch, and as the others slept, he snuck away to the castle to challenge Titus. Somehow the brilliant young man was arrogant enough to think hundreds of years of Oread honor and tradition would survive the sickness that has consumed Titus's tribe in only a few weeks. The Imperator's son was wrong, and he is also unused to having his heritage be of such little consequence. In the real world, he would have been safe. In this small one, he is not. But he's alive, I say. Yeah, I'm alive, you pixie. Cassius stumbles shirtless out of the fort. Cassius! Roke gasps. His face pales suddenly. Cassius's left eye is swollen shut. Lips are split, ribs purple as grapes. His other eye is bloody. 3 dislocated fingers shoot out like tree roots. And his shoulder is odd. The others stare at him with such sadness. Cassius was the Imperator's boy, their shining knight. And now his body is a ruin. And the looks upon their faces, the pallid cast to their skin, tell me that they have never before seen someone beautiful mutilated. I have. He smells like piss. He tries to play it off as some lark. They beat the slag out of me when I challenged him, hit me with a shovel on the side of the head, then stood around and had themselves a circle piss. Then they tied me up in that stinkholy keep. But Pollock set me free like a good lad, and he's agreed to open the gate if we need it done. I didn't think you were so stupid, I say. Of course he is. He wants to be one of the Sovereign's knights, Roke mutters. And all they do is duel. He shakes his long hair. Dirt crusts the leather band that holds it in a ponytail. You should have waited for us. What's done is done, I say. We go ahead with the plan. Fine. Cassius snorts. But when the time comes, Titus is mine. Chapter 26, Mustang. Part of Cassius is gone. That invincible boy I first met is somehow different. The humiliation changed him. I can't decide how, though, as I straighten his fingers and help him fix his shoulder. He falls down from the pain. Thank you, brother, he says to me, and cups the side of my head to help himself up. It is the first time he says it. I failed the test. I don't disagree with him. I went in there like a plumb fool. If this were anywhere else, they would have killed me. At least it didn't cost you your life, I say. Cassius chuckles. Just my pride. Good. Something you have in abundance, Roke says with a smile. We have to get her back. Cassius's own grimace fades as he looks at Roke, then at me. Quinn. We have to get her back before he takes her up to his tower. We will. We bloody will. Cassius and I go east according to my plan, farther than we have gone before. We stay to the northern highlands, but we make sure we walk along the high crests, visible to the open plains below. East and east, our long legs taking us fast and far. A rider to the southeast, I say. Cassius doesn't look. We pass through a humid glen, where a dark loch offers us the chance to catch a drink across from a family of deerling. Mud covers our legs. Bugs flit over the cold water. The earth feels good between my fingers as I bend to drink. I dunk my head and join Cassius in eating some of our aging lamb. It needs salt. My belly cramps from all the protein. How far east of the castle do you reckon we are? I ask Cassius, pointing behind him. Maybe 20 clicks. Hard to peg it. Feels farther. But my legs are just tired. He straightens and looks where I point. Ah, got it. A girl on a dappled Mustang watches us from the edge of the glen. She has a long covered bar tied to her saddle. Can't make out her house, but I have seen her before. I remember her like it was yesterday. The girl who called me a pixie when I fell off that pony Mateo put me on. I want her horse to ride back, Cassius tells me. He can't see out of his left eye, but his bravado is back, a little too forcefully. "Hey, darling," he calls. Shit, that hurts the ribs. "Prime ride, what house are you?" I'm worried about this. The girl rides to within 10 meters, but she has the sigils on sleeve and neck covered with 2 lengths of sewn cloth. Her face is streaked with 3 diagonal lines of blueberry juice mixed with animal fat. We don't know if she's from Ceres. I hope not. She could be from the southern woods, from the east, from the far northeastern highlands even. "Hello, Mars," she says smugly, looking at the sigil on our jackets. Cassius bows pathetically. I don't bother. Well, this is swell. I kick a stone with my shoe. "Hello, Mustang, nice sigil, and horse." I let her know having a horse is something rare. She is small, delicate. Her smile is not. It mocks us. "What are you boys about in the hinterlands? Reaping grain?" I pat my sling blade. "We have enough back home." I gesture south of our castle. She suppresses a laugh at my feeble lie. "Sure you do. I will be even with you." Cassius forces his battered face into a smile. "You are stunningly beautiful. You must be from Venus. Hit me with whatever is under that cloth on your saddle and take me back to your fortress. I'll be your pink if you promise not to share me and to keep me warm every night." He takes an unsteady step forward. And every morning, her Mustang takes 4 back till he gives up trying to steal her horse. "Well, aren't you the charmer, handsome? And by that pitchfork in your hand, you must be a prime fighter, too." She bats her eyelashes. Cassius puffs out his chest in agreement. She waits for him to understand. Then he frowns. "Yup, uh-oh. You see, we didn't have any tools in our stronghold, except those pertaining to our deity, so you must have encountered House Ceres already." She leans forward in the saddle sardonically. "You don't have crops. You just fought those who do. And you don't have any better weapons, clearly, or you would be carrying them with you. So Ceres is in these parts as well, likely in the lowlands near the woods for crops, or near that big river everyone is talking about." She's all laughing eyes, and a smirking mouth, and a face shaped like a heart. Hair so golden, it sparkles in the sun and flows down her back in braids. "So, you're in the woods?" she asks. "North, in the highlands, probably." "Oh, this is fun. How bad are your weapons? You clearly don't have horses. What a poor house." "Slag," Cassius makes a point of saying. "You seem pretty proud of yourself." I put my sling blade on my shoulder. She raises a hand and wiggles it back and forth. Sort of. More proud than handsome there should be. He's full of tales." I shift my weight on my toes to see if she notices. She moves her horse back. Now, Reaper. Are you going to try and get in my saddle too?" "Just trying to knock you out of it, Mustang." "Fancy a roll in the mud, do we? Well, how about I promise to let you up here with me if you give me more clues as to where your castle squats, towers, sprawls. I can be a kind master." She looks me up and down playfully. Her eyes sparkle like a fox's might. This is still a game to her, which means her house is a civil place. I'm envious as I examine her in kind. Cassius didn't lie. She is something to look at. But I'd rather knock her off her Mustang. My feet are tired and we're playing a dangerous game. "What draft number were you?" I ask, wishing I'd paid more attention. "Higher than you, Reaper. I remember Mercury wanted you something awful, but his drafters wouldn't let him pick you in the first round. Something about your rage metric. You are higher than me, so you're not Mercury then. Because they chose a boy instead of me. And you're not a Jupiter, because they took a gory damn monstrous kid." I try to remember who else was chosen before me, but I can't. So I smile. "Maybe you shouldn't be so vain. Then I wouldn't know what draft you were." I notice the knife under her black tunic, but I still can't remember her from the draft. Wasn't paying attention. Cassius should have remembered her, the way he looks at girls, but maybe he can only think of Quinn and her missing ear. Our job is done. We can leave Mustang. She's smart enough to figure out the rest. But leaving might be a problem without a horse, and I don't think Mustang really needs hers. I feign boredom. Cassius keeps an eye on the hills around. Then I start suddenly, as if I've noticed something. I whisper, "Snake," into his ear, while looking at the horse's front hooves. He looks too. And at this point, the girl's movement is involuntary. Even as she realizes it's a trick, she leans forward to peer at the hooves. I lunge to close the 10-meter gap. I'm fast. So is she. But she's just a hair off balance and has to lean back in order to jerk her horse away. It scrambles back in the mud. I dive for her, and my strong right hand grips her long braids just as the horse darts away. I try to jerk her out of the saddle, but she's all hellfire. I'm left with a handful of coiled gold. The Mustang is off, and the girl laughs and curses about her hair. Then Cassius's pitchfork wobbles through the air and trips the horse. Girl and beast go down in the muddy grass. "Damn it, Cassius," I shout. "Sorry. You might have killed her." I know. Sorry." I run to see if she's broken her neck. That would ruin everything. She's not moving. I lean in to feel her pulse and sense a blade graze my groin. My hand is already there to twist her wrist away. I take the knife and pin her down. "I knew you wanted to roll me in the mud." Her lips smirk. Then they purse as if she wants a kiss. I recoil. Instead, she whistles, and the plan becomes a bit more complicated. I hear hooves. Everyone has bloody damn horses but us. The girl winks, and I force the cloth from her sigil, House Minerva. Greeks would have called it Athena, of course. 17 horses tear down the glen from the crest of the hill. Their riders have stun pikes. Where the hell do they get stun pikes? "Time to run, Reaper," Mustang taunts. My army comes. There's no running. Cassius dives into the log. I jump off Mustang, run after him through the mud, and throw myself over the bank to join him in the water. I cannot swim, but I learn quickly. The horsemen of House Minerva taunt Cassius and me as we tread water in the center of the small loch. It's summer, but the water is cold and deep. Dusk is coming. My limbs are numb. The Minervans still circle the lake, waiting for us to tire. We won't. I had 3 of the Durabags in my pocket. I blow them full of air and give 2 to Cassius, keeping 1 for myself. They help us float, and since none of the Minervans seem intent on swimming to meet us, we're safe for the time being. Roke should have lit it by now, I tell Cassius some hours into our swim. He's in bad shape from his wounds and the cold. Roke will light it. Faith, Goodman, Faith. We're also supposed to be almost home. Well, it's still going better than my plan did. You look bored, Mustang. I shout out with chattering teeth. Come in for a swim. And get hypothermia? I'm not stupid. I'm in Minerva, not Mars, remember? She laughs from the shore. I'd rather warm myself by your castle's hearth. See? She points behind us and speaks quickly to 3 tall boys, one of whom looks as big as an obsidian, shoulders like a huge thunderhead. A thick column of smoke rises in the distance. Finally. How the slag did those pricks pass the test? I ask loudly. They've given our castle away. If we get back, I'm going to drown them in their own piss, Cassius replies, even louder. Except for Antonia, she's too pretty for that. Our teeth chatter. The 18 raiders think House Mars is stupid, horseless, and unprepared. Reaper, handsome, I must leave you now, Mustang calls to us. Try not to drown before I return with your standard. You can be my pretty bodyguards, and you can have matching hats. But we'll have to teach you to think better, D. She gallops away with 15 riders, the huge gold reining his horse in beside hers, like some sort of colossal shadow. Her followers whoop as they ride. She also leaves us company, 2 horsemen with stun pikes. Our farming tools lie in the mud on the shore. Mustang is a sex plot, Cassius manages to shiver out. She's scary. Reminds me of my mother. Something is wrong with you. He nods in agreement. So the plan is sort of working. If we can get out of the lock without being captured. Night falls in earnest, and with the darkness comes the howls of the wolves in the misty highlands. We begin to sink as our durabags leak air from small stress holes. We might have had a chance to slink away in the night, but the remaining Minervans are not lazily sitting around a fire. They stalk through the darkness so that we never even know where they are. Why can't they be stupidly sitting in their castle infighting like our fellows? I'm going to be a slave again. Maybe not a real slave, but it doesn't matter. I won't lose. I cannot lose. Io will have died for nothing if I let myself sink here, if I let my plan fail. Yet I do not know how to beat my enemies. They are clever, and the odds are stacked heavily against me. Io's dream sinks with me into the darkness of the lock, and I'm about to swim to shore, regardless of the outcome, when something spooks the horses. Then a scream slices across the water. Fear trickles down my spine as something howls. It is not a wolf. It can't be what I think it is. Blue light flashes as a stun pike flails in the air. The boy screams another curse. A knife got him. Someone runs to his aid, and electricity flares blue again. I see a black wolf standing over one body as another falls. Darkness again. Silence. Then the mournful whine of medbots descending from Olympus. I hear a familiar voice. Clear now. Come out of the water, fishies. We paddle to shore and pant in the mud. Mild hypothermia has set in. It won't kill us, but my fingers are still slow as mud squishes between them. My body shakes like a drill boy at work. Goblin, you psychopath! Is that you? I call. The 4th tribe slides out of the darkness. He's wearing the pelt of the wolf he killed. It covers his head to his shins. Damn small kid. The gold of his black fatigues is coated in mud. So is his face. Cassius crawls from his knees to clasp Severo in a hug. Oh, you beautiful goblin. Beautiful. Beautiful boy and smelly. He been nibbling on mushrooms? Goblin asks over Cassius's shoulders. Stop touching me. you pixie." He pushes Cassius away, looking embarrassed. "Did you kill these two?" I ask, shivering. I bend over them and take off their dry clothing to exchange for my own. I feel pulses. No. Severo cocks his head at me. "Should I have? Why are you asking me like I'm your praetor?" I laugh. "You know what's what." Severo shrugs. "You're like me." He looks at Cassius with disdain. "And somehow still like him. So should I kill them?" he asks casually. Cassius and I share startled glances. No. Yin, we agree. Just as the Medbots arrive to take the Minervans away. He hurt them badly enough to end their time in the game. "So, what pray tell are you doing wandering about in a wolfskin all the way out here?" Cassius asks. "Rogue said you lot would be out east," Severo replies curtly. "Plan is still a go," says he. "Have the Minervans arrived at the sea castle?" I ask. Severo spits in the grass. The twin moons cast eerie shadows over his dark face. "How the piss should I know? They passed me on their way, but you have no leverage, you know. It's a dead-end plan." Is Severo actually helping us? Of course, his help begins with listing out our inadequacies. If the Minervans get to the keep, they will destroy Titus and take our territory. "Yes, that's the point," I say. "They will also take our standard. That's a risk we have to take." So I stole the standard from the keep and buried it in the woods. I should have thought of that. "You just stole it? Just like that?" Cassius starts laughing. "Crazy little sod. You're prime mad. 100th pick, prime mad." Severo looks annoyed. Pleased, but annoyed. Even then, we cannot guarantee they leave our territory. "Your suggestion?" I ask, still shivering, but impatient. He could have helped us before. Get leverage to get them out after they do their job of taking Titus down, obviously. Yes, yes. I get it. I shake off the last of my shivers. But how? Severo shrugs. "We'll take Minerva's standard." Wait, Cassius says. "You know how to do that?" Severo snorts. "What do you think I've been doing this whole time, you silky turd? Wanking off in the bushes?" Cassius and I look at each other. "Kind of," I say. "Yeah, actually," Cassius agrees. We ride the Minervan horses east of the highlands. I'm not a sound equestrian. Of course, Cassius is, so I learned to clutch his bruised ribs very well. Our faces are painted with mud. It will look like shadow in the night. So they will see our horses, our pikes, our sigils, and will think us their own. The Minervan castle lies in rolling country, quilted with wildflowers and olive trees. The moons glimmer bright over the pitching landscape. Owls hoot in the gnarled branches above. As we reach their sprawling sandstone fortress, a voice challenges us from the rampart above the gate. Severo is not very presentable in his wolf cloak, so he guards the escape. "We found Mars," I call up. "Oi, open the damn gate." "Password," the sentry demands lazily from the battlements. "Buzzing butthead," I shout up. Severo heard it last time he was here. "Prime. Where's Virginia and the Raiders?" the sentry calls down. "Mustang?" "Took their standard, man. The pissers didn't even have horses. We might still manage to take their castle." The sentry bites. "Prime news. Virginia's a devil. June's made supper. Fetch some in the kitchen and then join me if you like. I'm bored and need to be entertained." The gate creaks open very, very slowly. I laugh when it finally parts enough for us to ride in abreast. Cassius and I aren't even met by guards. Their castle is different, drier, cleaner, and less oppressive. They have gardens and olive trees that wind between the sandstone columns of the bottom level. We hide in the shadows as two girls pass with cups of milk. They have no torches or fires an enemy can spot from the distance, only small candles. It makes it easy to slink about. Apparently the girls are pretty because Cassius makes a face and pretends to follow them up the stairs. After flashing me a smile, he sneaks toward the sounds of the kitchen as I look for their command room. I find it on the 3rd level. Windows overlook the dark plain. In front of the windows lies Minerva's atlas. A burning flag floats above my house's castle. I don't know what it means, but it can't be good. Another fortress, House Diana's, lies south of Minerva's in the Great Woods. Those are all that have been discovered. They have their own score sheets to keep track of accomplishments. Someone named Pax seems a bloody nightmare. He's taken 8 slaves personally and caused medbots to come down to fetch 9 students, so I assume he's the one that stood as tall as an obsidian. I don't find their standard anywhere in the command room. I guess they weren't stupid enough to leave it just lying about. No problem. We'll find it in our own way. On cue, I smell Cassius's smoke fires seeping through the windows. What a pretty war room they have, much prettier than Mars. I break everything, and when I've ruined their map and I'm finished defacing a statue of Minerva, I use the axe I found to chop the name of Mars into their long, beautiful war table. I'm tempted to etch another house's name into the debris to confuse them, but I want them to know who did this. This house is too put together, too ordered and level-headed. They have a leader, raiders, sentries, naive ones, cooks, olive trees, warm milk, stun pikes, horses, honey, strategy, Minervans, proud pickers. Let them feel a bit more like House Mars. Let them feel rage, chaos, shouts come. Cassius's fire spreads. A girl runs into the war room. I nearly make her faint as I lift my axe. There's no point in hurting her. We can't take prisoners. Not easily. So I pull out both the sling blade and the stun pike. Mud on my face, my golden hair wild, a look of terror. "Are you June?" I growl. No. Why? Can you cook?" She laughs despite her fear. 3 boys turn the corner. 2 are thicker but shorter than me. I scream like a rage god. Oh, how they run. "Enemies," they scream. "Enemies." "They're in the towers," I roar, to confuse them again and again as I descend the stairs. "The top levels? Everywhere. Too many. Dozens. Dozens. Mars is here. Mars has come." Smoke spreads. So do their cries. "Mars," they shout. "Mars has come." A young man flashes past me. I grab his collar and throw him out a window, into the courtyard below, scattering the Minervans massed there. I go to the kitchen. Cassius's fire is not bad, mostly grease and brush. A howling girl beats at it. "June!" I call out. She turns into my stun pike and shudders as the electricity dumbs down her muscles. That's how I steal their cook. Cassius finds me running with June over my shoulder, through their gardens. What the hell? "She's their cook," I explain. He laughs so hard he can barely breathe. Minervans fall into chaos, running from their barracks. They think the enemy's in their towers. They think their citadel is burning down. They think Mars has come in full force. Cassius pulls me along into their stables. 7 horses have been left behind. We steal 6, after tossing a candle into their hay stores, and ride out to the main gate as smoke and panic consumes the fortress. I don't have the standard. just as we planned. Severo said that there was a hidden back gate to the fortress. We wagered that someone very desperate to flee a fallen fortress would use it to escape, someone trying to protect the Standard. We were right. Severo joins us 2 minutes later. He howls out from under his wolf cloak as he comes. Far behind, the enemy chases him on foot with stun pikes. Now they're the ones without horses, and they've no chance to get back the owl standard that glitters in his muddy hands. The cook, unconscious across my saddle. We ride under the starry night, back to our battle-torn highlands, the three of us laughing, cheering, howling. Chapter 27, The House of Rage. We find Roke at Phobos Tower with Leah, Screwface, Clown, Thistle, Weed, and Pebble. We have 8 horses, 2 stolen at the lake, 6 stolen in the castle. We add them to our plan. Cassius, Severo, and I cross the bridge that spans the river Metos. An enemy scout bolts north to warn Mustang. Our other stolen horses, led by Antonia, follow once the scout is away, looping north. Roke, horseless, loops south. My horse alone is not covered with mud. She is a bright mare, and I am a bright sight. I carry Minerva's golden standard in my left hand. We could have hidden it, could have kept it safe, but they need to know we have it. And even though Severo stole it, he doesn't want to carry it. He likes his curved knives too much. I think he whispers to them. And Cassius, we need for other things besides carrying the standard. Plus, if he carried it, then he would look the leader. And that will not do. Dead silence as we ride through our lowlands. Fog seeps around the trees. I cut through it. Cassius and Severo ride to either side. I cannot see or hear them now, but wolves howl somewhere. Severo howls back. I struggle to keep my seat as the mare spooks. I fall off twice. Cassius's laughs come from the darkness. It's hard to remember I'm doing all this for Io, all this to start a rebellion. It feels like a game this night. In a way it is, because I'm finally beginning to have fun. Our castle is taken. Firelight along its ramparts tell me this. The castle stands high above the glen on its hill, its torches making strange halos in the fog-quilted darkness. My horse's hooves thump softly on wet grass, as to my right, the Metos gurgles like a sick child in the night. Cassius rides there, but I cannot see him. "Reaper!" Mustang shouts through the mist. Her voice is not playful. She's 40 meters off, near the base of the sloped road that leads to the castle. She leans forward, arms crossed over the pommel of her saddle. 6 riders flank her. The rest must be garrisoning in the castle. Otherwise, I'd hear about it. I look at the boys behind her. Pax is so large that his pike looks like a scepter in his huge mitts. "Hello, Mustang." "So, you didn't drown." That would have been easier. Her quick face is dark. "You are a vile breed. You know that." She's been inside the keep and she doesn't have words for her anger. "Rape, mutilation, murder," she spits. "I did nothing," I say. "And neither did the proctors." "Yes, you did nothing. Yet now you have our standard." "And what? Handsome, somewhere out there in the mist? Go ahead. Pretend you're not their leader, like you're not responsible." Titus is responsible. The big bastard? Yes, Pax laid him low. She gestures to the monster of a boy beside her. Pax's hair is shorn short, his eyes small, chin like a heel with a dent in it. Beneath him, his horse looks like a dog. His bare arms are flesh stretched over boulders. "I didn't come to talk, Mustang." "Come to cut my ear off?" she sneers. "No goblin did." Then one of her men slips, screaming from his saddle. "What the?" a rider murmurs. Behind them, knives already dripping, Severo howls like a maniac. A half-dozen other howls join his as Antonia and half her Phobos garrison ride from the North Hills on the stolen mud-black steeds. They howl like mentals in the mist. Mustang soldiers wheel about. Severo takes another one down. He doesn't use stun pikes. Medbots scream through the sky, which is suddenly filled with proctors. All of them have come to watch. Mercury trails behind the rest, carrying an armful of spirits, which he tosses to his fellows. Each of us peers up to watch their strange appearance. The horses continue to run. Time pauses. "To the fray!" Dark Apollo mocks from on high. His golden robes show he has just risen from bed. "To the fray!" Then chaos hits as Mustang shouts orders, strategy. 4 more horsemen ride down the sloped road from the gate to support her troop. My turn. I slam Minerva's standard upright into the earth and scream bloody murder. I kick my heels into my mare. She lurches forward, almost losing me. My body shudders as she pounds the moist earth with her hooves. My strong left hand grips the reins, and I draw my sling blade. I feel a helldiver again when I howl. The enemy scatters as they see me raging toward them. It is the rage that confuses them. It is the insanity of Severo, the manic brutality of Mars. The horsemen scatter, except one. Pax jumps from his horse and sprints at me. "Pax outsmarts!" he screams, a titan possessed, foaming at the mouth. I dig my heels into my horse and howl. Then Pax tackles my horse. His shoulder hits my horse's sternum. The beast screams. My world flips. I fly out of my saddle, over my horse's head, and crash to the ground. Dazed, I stumble to my knee in the hoof-churned field. Madness consumes the field. Antonia's force crashes into Mustang's flank. They have primitive weapons, but their horses are shock enough. Several Minervans fly from the saddle. Others kick their mounts towards their abandoned standard. But Cassius appears out of the fog at a gallop and swipes the standard away to the south. 2 enemies give chase, dividing their force. The other 6 soldiers from Antonia's tower garrisons are waiting to ambush them in the woods, where the horses cannot gallop. Reflexes make me duck as a pike sweeps toward my skull. I'm up with my sling blade. I slash it at a wrist. Too slow. I move as if in a dance, remembering the thumping pattern my uncle taught me in the abandoned mines. The reaping dance carries my motions into one another like flowing water. I swoop the sling blade into a kneecap. The aureate bone does not break, but the force knocks the rider from the saddle. I spin sideways and strike again and again, and sweep the hoof of a horse away, breaking a fetlock. The animal falls. A different stone pike stabs at me. I avoid the point and rip it free with my red hands, and jam the electrocuting tip into another assailant. The boy falls. A mountain pushes it aside and runs at me. Pax. In case I am an idiot, he roars his name at me. His parents bred him to lead obsidian landing parties into hull breaches. Pax outsmarts. He beats his huge pike against his chest and hits puffy-haired clown so hard, my friend flies back 4 meters. Pax outsmarts is a prick licker, I mock. Then a horse's flank thumps into my back, and I stumble toward the monstrous boy. I'm doomed. He could have gotten me with his pike. Instead, he hugs me. It's like being embraced by a golden bear that keeps screaming its own damn name. My back cracks. Mother mercy. He's squeezing my skull. My shoulder aches. Bloody hell. I can't breathe. I've never met a force like this. Dear God, he's a bloody damn ogre. But someone is howling. Dozens of howls. Back popping. Pax roars his personal victory. I have your captain. I piss on you, Mars. Pax Autelemonis has slagged your captain. Pax Autelemonis. My vision flickers black and fades, but the rage in me does not. I roar out one last bit of wrath before I faint. It's cheap. Pax is honorable. I still smash his grapes flat with my knee. I make sure to get both as many times as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4. He gulps and collapses. I feign to top him in the mud to the sound of proctors cheering.